Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto meets his mother during the Chunin exams part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The Konoha General Hospital was busy as Naruto waited outside the reception area to visit his teammate, Sasuke Uchiha. It had only been a few hours after the second part of the Chunin exams when it was announced that there would be a month till the third part of the exam would begin. It was to allow the genin of the exam to prepare themselves for their upcoming battle, to hone their skills and master their techniques. It also allowed the village of the Hidden Leaf to prepare for the arriving dignitaries that would be in attendance for the exam, both to evaluate the skills of the shinobi of the respected village and as a form of entertainment. Naruto was ecstatic that he managed to make it past the preliminaries and make it into the finals, but at the same time, he was also impatient to fight his opponent, mostly because he had a promise to keep. During the preliminaries, he witnessed the match between his former classmate, Hinata Hyuga, and her cousin from the same clan, Neji Hyuga. During the match, he had watched as Neji continuously mocked her for her shy and meek nature, making her feel inadequate and hopeless, wanting her to give up. It was only after he shouted encouraging words to her that he watched her valiantly fight against her cousin. But in the end, the difference in skill was apparent, and she was ultimately defeated, even though she still tried to get back up. If it wasn't for the proctor's intervention, Neji would have killed her. Something had sparked in Naruto as he watched her stand up, despite everything that happened to her. And it made him angry when that Neji guy kept admonishing her for losing, proclaiming that it was fate that she was meant to lose. So, he made a promise that he would defeat him, and prove to him there is no such thing as destiny. But even he knew that his current skill set was not enough. He had to get stronger, especially after they fought that weird snake guy in the forest who did something to him that messed up his chakra. So, he was pleasantly surprised to find his sensei, Kakashi Hatake, and asked to help him get stronger so that he could avenge Hinata. However, "What do you mean you won't train me?" Naruto yelled loudly in the reception area as the silver-haired one-eyed man stared lazily at him. "Keep your voice down, Naruto. We're in a hospital after all," the jonin told his student, who flinched a little at the glare from the receptionist, and he uttered an apology. "And as I was saying, I'm sorry, it's not that I won't, it's that I can't train you right now. I need to focus on Sasuke." "Why? Sasuke's plenty strong as it is. I need help now. I'm fighting against Hinata's cousin in a month and I need to get stronger. You have to train me, Kakashi-sensei." "I'm aware of that, but right now Sasuke needs my attention more. Besides, I already found you a tutor to help you prepare." He pointed over to a man wearing dark round sunglasses and a bandana over his head. "Seriously, this guy? The closet pervert? I could beat him with my sexy jutsu." He pointed at the man who flinched. "Closet pervert?" Kakashi raised an eyebrow at the man. "That is so rude. I am not a closet pervert," he yelled at the boy. Even though Ebisu started to see Naruto as more than the Ninetales container, thanks to his positive influence on Konohamaru, he still found it annoying that the boy would constantly point him out as a closet pervert. "Kakashi-sensei, why are you putting me up with him? I need you to train me. You're supposed to be my sensei, aren't you supposed to be training all of us?" Kakashi nodded. "That's true, but at the moment, Naruto, of the three of you, you are the worst with basic skills." He didn't realize how much that hurt Naruto, but the blonde didn't let it show. "Ebisu is someone I trust that can help you polish up your basics. It would take a month to help you catch up to the others, and with who Sasuke will be fighting in the next round, I need to prepare him instead." He tried to explain as Naruto hung his head while hearing his teacher give off a lame excuse. "So, you're just playing favorites, teach Sasuke all the cool jutsus while leaving me in the dust." "Naruto, it's not about favoritism right now. Certain conditions demand my attention, and most of them revolve around Sasuke. I'm not leaving you in the dust, but right now Sasuke needs my help. I hope you can understand that." Naruto didn't fully understand what was going on, but his young mind didn't register it, as he glared up at the man before scoffing. "Whatever, go train Sasuke again, see if I care. But if you're not going to help me, then I'll do it on my own," he yelled before storming out faster than he could catch him. Kakashi sighed as he watched his student ran away. "Is he going to be alright?" Ebisu asked as Kakashi looked at him. "He'll be fine. He's young and emotional, he'll understand in time." He looked down a little as he thought about his sensei, and how he wondered what he would do right now, especially when it concerned his son. "I'll make it up to him later, right now you should probably go find him." The jonin nodded before disappearing in a poof of smoke. Far away, Naruto kept running as he avoided anyone in his way. The villagers with their glares, the shopkeepers that gave him looks of disdain, and even some of the ninjas that passed him by. He didn't care about any of that right now. Right now, he just wanted to get away from everything and get his head straight. Strangely, however, as he ran, he failed to notice himself getting further from the main village, further than he had ever gone before. He finally stopped as he caught his breath. The forest was silent as he gripped the side of a tree. His blue eyes that usually shone with brightness were dulled slightly as he continued to stare at the ground. Slowly his fists began to clench, and his teeth mashed together. "Damn it!" he yelled before slamming his hand into the tree. It's always the same thing. Sasuke this and Sasuke that. Sasuke is so much better than you. Sasuke, Sasuke, Sasuke. I'm so sick and tired of hearing the same old crap. He yelled as gripped his hair. If he's so much better than me, then why does he need all the help? What about me? Why do I have to get traded off to someone else? He yelled as he stomped around the clearing, failing to notice the ground starting to indent. But no, it's always the same. The village loves Sasuke, while I get the rough end of the stick. The ground sunk a little more. I know he lost his family, and I'm sorry for him, but I never even knew mine. I don't even know if they loved me, or even cared about me. The ground released a small crack. I mean, what kind of parents give up their own child to seal away the stupid nine-tails? He continued not to notice the ground sinking as he just vented at the world. Are they even still alive? Are they dead, or did they just abandon me once that stupid fox was sealed? He yelled as he felt something wet build in the corner of his eyes. I just want someone who wants to help me. I want someone who cares about me and not pawns me off like a cheap rug. The ground started to collapse as he yelled to the world. I just want to know if I even matter. A loud crack finally caught his attention as he noticed the ground beneath his feet cracked open and he started to fall. Oh sure dash! He yelled as he fell through the hole and landed on the ground below him. Bits and pieces of dirt and wood fell around him as he groaned. Oh, he slowly sat back up. What happened? He looked up to the hole. Did I just fall through the ground? Daylight shining through the hole as all around him was shrouded in darkness. Did I fall into a pit? What kind of idiot puts a pit in the middle of the forest? He stood up as he brushed the dirt and wood off his orange jumpsuit. He stopped when he looked and noticed the wooden floorboards beneath his feet. Although, this doesn't look like a regular pit, where am I? He looked around as his eyes began to adjust in the darkness. What the heck is this place? Cough cough, oh man, it's dusty in here. He coughed as he waved the dust and spider webs away. He fumbled his way through the dark trying to find a light switch, only for the lights to bust. Dang it, wait, I think I have a lighter here. He smirked as he fished around for the lighter he borrowed from the smoking store owner that refused to serve him. Stupid old man. He smirked as he lit the lighter. The small lighter illuminated a portion of the strange place, as he noticed that the place looked like a room, with a bed, a tri-pronged kunai hanging off a string, a closet, and what looked like a large amount of sealed-up boxes. This it looks like a home, but who has a home underground? He walked around trying to find a way out. Though it might be a storage area, oh man, this means I stumbled onto one of those things, haven't? Geez, I gotta get out of here before the old man gives me another earful. He spotted what looked like a door as he smiled. There. Now to get out of here before those dash. He started walking before he accidentally knocked over one of the boxes. Oh man! I'm going to be in so much. He trailed off as he noticed a small leather-bound book on the ground. Though it wasn't the book itself that caused him to pause, it was the name written on the cover, especially the last name. Kushina Uzumaki. Uzumaki? But that's my last name? He bent down as he picked up the small journal. The leather feeling old and worn, but at the same time, he felt something else towards it. Were there other Uzumakis? Why didn't the old man tell me? He held the journal in his hand as he morally fought with himself. It's not mine, I should probably put it away. He placed it down and started to walk to the exit. But his curiosity stayed his feet as he looked back to the small journal as the light landed on the name. Still, I guess one little peek won't hurt? After all, if there was another Uzumaki, maybe it can tell me about my parents. He walked back over as he picked up the journal. He walked over to the chair and found a candle as he lit it and sat down. Opening the pages of the old worn-out journal and began to read. February 15th, Diary of Kushina Uzumaki. Dear Diary. Mama and Papa said that I have to move from Yuzushio-gakure to Konohagakure next week. They said it has something to do with Mito Basama and that my chakra was special. They didn't say what it was, only that it was important. I don't want to leave my home, but with the war going on, Mama and Papa believe I will be safer in Konoha, and to be truthful, I would like to find some more daily peace than having to worry about the war reaching Yuzushio-gakure. Who knows, maybe I can be a kunoichi in the Hidden Leaf. Wouldn't that be something? I have to go. Mama is calling me. I will return later. Naruto read the words as confusion was evident on his face. Yuzushio-gakure? I never heard of such a place. Was there a whole clan of Uzumakis? What happened to it, and why didn't the old man tell me about it? He continued reading as the date became longer. February 25th, Diary of Kushina Uzumaki. Today was my first day in Konoha and I enrolled at the Ninja Academy. I was so nervous today that I shouted that I would become the first female Hokage. A lot of the other kids made fun of me because of that. Then they made fun of my red hair and my round face, calling me tomato. I didn't like that, but for now, I'll just ignore them. There is this one kid in the class that I don't understand. He stood up and said that he would become Hokage too. He's a little weird and looks kind of like a wimp. I think his name was Minato or something. I didn't catch it. Hopefully, I don't have to worry about him making fun of me. Tomorrow I'm going to meet with Mito Basama. Wonder why? I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Minato, huh? Where have I heard that name before? There's a bit of gap in this one, Naruto noted as he continued reading. March 3rd, Diary of Kushina Uzumaki. Hey, sorry for the absence, but I found out what it is I'm here for. I'm still trying to get my head around it, but it turns out that I am to become the next Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. Naruto nearly dropped the journal in shock. What? The Nine Tails. But I have the 9 tails. He looked down at his stomach as he felt where the seal would be. But that doesn't make any sense. The 9 tails didn't attack the village until the day I was born. Why was it already here? What else does this say? He asked, wanting to know answers to his ever-going questions. It turns out that Mito Basama is getting too old to be the 9 tails Jinchuriki, so they must pass it on to me because we share similar chakra. I've heard stories about the 9 tails. It's supposed to be this horrifying monster that kills people and destroys anything in its path. And I'm supposed to keep it inside of me? I'll be honest, I'm scared. He noticed spots that looked like dried-up tear stains as it was apparent that this Kushina cried while writing it. He instantly felt sympathetic towards her, as he could understand what she went through. But then he continued and found something. But Mito Basama told me something that made me feel a little better. She said that there is a way to counteract the 9 tails' negative emotions. She said we must fill ourselves with love, and be loved in return, so that our burden doesn't become so heavy. I don't understand what she meant, but I know Mama and Papa love me. Is that enough? Naruto looked down at his stomach and imagined where the seal was. Fill ourselves with love and be loved? He asked himself as he sat alone in the darkroom with the candle, his only source of light. Wonder what that's like. Despite his heart, he continued reading. April 4th, Diary of Kushina Uzumaki. So, today was rather interesting. Some of the kids at the academy started to pick on me again, making fun of my hair and calling me tomato face repeatedly. Normally I could stand it, but today I finally just snapped. If they were going to call me tomato, then I was going to make them regret calling me that. So, I beat them to a pulp, show them they won't mess with me anymore. Now because of it, they all run away from me, calling me the red hot-blooded habanero. Well, it's better than being called tomato face, right? Naruto gulped a little as he imagined a girl his age with flowing red hair and beating the crap out of all the other kids that picked on her. Man, this girl kind of reminds me of Sakura-chan. That's a little disturbing. He continued to read. While I was beating them up, I noticed that strange kid from class again, the one that said he wanted to become Hokage too. Minato, I think? I asked him if he was going to try and pick on me too, but he didn't say anything and just turned away. I think he's like everyone, treating me like an outsider. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this as he wondered who this Minato she was talking about. There weren't that many blondes in Konoha, other than himself and the Yamanaka clan. So maybe it was someone he knew, but older? He noticed the diary skipped until she was around 12 years old if the date was anything to go by. July 3rd, Journal of Kushina Uzumaki. Hey, it's been a while since I wrote in this. I didn't mean to, but the last few years have been busy. I graduated from the academy and now I'm officially a kunoichi of Konoha, but that's not why I'm writing. Something bad happened to me a few days ago. A few days ago, I was kidnapped by ninjas from Kumogakure, village hidden in the cloud. Naruto gasped a little when he read this and wanted to know more. Even though it was obvious that she made it out okay, they were after my special chakra and the 9 tails that's sealed inside me. I won't deny that I was scared. They broke into my home, tied me up, and dragged me out of the village. I tried to resist, but they hurt me if I tried to fight back. There wasn't much I could do. I tried leaving a trail for someone to follow by using my hair, but as we got further and further from the village I started to lose hope. But that's when I was saved by the last person I ever expected. I didn't even see it happen, but he took out all the Kumo ninja before they could even react. And when he stepped into the light, I realized it was him. Minato Namikaze. Namikaze. The Minato Namikaze. The 4th Hokage. She knew the 4th Hokage when he was a kid. Holy crap! Naruto exclaimed. It was a little confusing for him. For one, he was finding out about the man that would become the 4th Hokage and seal the 9 tails into him, which should make him dislike the man. But at the same time, he still admired the Hokage, especially the 4th. After all, he wanted to be one someday. He told me that he tracked me down using the strands of hair I'd been leaving behind. I almost didn't believe him, because no one from the search team could find them, but he told me that it was one of the first things he noticed about me and thought it was beautiful. I asked him why he decided to help me now and not when I was being picked on. He told me that he knew I was strong in body and spirit, that he didn't need to interfere in those fights. I asked what made this different, why now especially when I'm an outsider. And you know what he told me? He told me that this war that's raging, it was between 2 villages and he didn't want to lose me. And as for being an outsider, he said I lived in the village, which made me one of them. At that moment, Minato looked like an amazing shinobi in my eyes. I felt like that I would always be safe with him, and that I would want to be by his side. I think I may have a crush on him. Naruto blushed a little when this Kushina woman announced that she had a crush on the 4th Hokage. This is feeling a little personal right now, I should probably stop. He was about to set the book down when he noticed something that was roughly 15 years later or so. July 3rd, Journal of Kushina Uzumaki. Hello, it's been a while since I wrote this thing. But I have some amazing news. Minato and I are getting married. After dating for 2 years, Minato finally proposed to me. It was one of the most romantic gestures I had ever seen. He took me to the top of the Hokage monument, and we sat on top of the Sandaime Hokage's head. We just sat there and watched the whole village, until Minato managed to ask the question, and of course, I immediately said yes. Uzumaki impatience, I couldn't wait. The Yondaime was married? I didn't know that. Uzumaki impatience? He continued reading, as the candle's light flickered. I have unfortunately decided to step down from trying to become Hokage. I'm not saying give up, cause that's not what Uzumakis do. As much as I want it to happen, I am still technically a citizen of Uzushiogakure even though it's long since been destroyed and because I wasn't born in Konoha. But I am a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf, and I will always be ready to serve her when the time comes. Naruto smiled a little at this, seeing that even though her dream of being Hokage couldn't come true, she still wanted to protect the village hidden in the leaves. And learning a little something more about the Uzumaki clan. Which made him wonder what would happen if he couldn't reach his dream of becoming Hokage. Besides, I think Minato might have more of a shot of being Hokage than I ever will. He mastered the sealing techniques of my clan really well and got recognized as a seal master, which is impressive, and my clan was famous for our sealing ability. Thought I may have given him some pointers. On top of that, he has just been assigned his first genin team. I've met them, and they are so cute. I think all have great potential to become amazing shinobi. Their names are Rin Noera, Obito Uchiha, and Kakashi Hatake. Kakashi? Does she mean Kakashi sensei? I didn't know he was trained by the 4th Hokage. Oh man, that means he must know all the 4th Hokage's secret ninjutsu. Which he's probably just going to teach them all to Sasuke, he grumbled before blinking. Wait, sensei had a team? Why haven't we met them? He asked but continued to read. Rin is so cute. If I ever have a daughter, I'd want her to be just like Rin. She's got a good head on her shoulders, so I know she'll keep the other two in line. And Kakashi, he is so talented, he made Jonin at such a young age. But acts a little too serious, and I think he could afford to be a little laxer. Naruto gave a disbelieving look as he constantly thought about all the times Kakashi turned up late with a lame excuse. And finally, Obito, well, there is a lot he needs to fix up. He acts like a little half-pint most of the time. He trips over most of the time, can't throw a shuriken, and his jutsu setup needs more work, but honestly, he's my favorite. His bright and cheerful personality, and his outgoing attitude deepen the team and those around him. If Minato and I ever had a child, I'd want him to be just like him. A child that values friendships, and has a cheerful spirit with a will that can't be broken. I just hope this war ends soon, and I hope one day that my children can learn from them. Naruto didn't know why, but something about Kushina's words resonated with him. It was strange, it was like she was describing the type of person he was. But why? Who was this Kushina Uzumaki? And why did reading this journal make him feel so sad, but also happy? He continued to read, wanting to know more. Hey, it's been a while. Something terrible happened. 2 of Minato's students were killed in action. First was Obito, who sacrificed himself to save Kakashi from falling debris at Kanobi Bridge. Then, Rin died shortly after. She had been kidnapped by Karigakure. According to the report, she had been forced to become the 3 Tails Jinchuriki, and they planned to activate her once she was back in the village. She knew this and sacrificed herself to prevent it from happening. Kakashi hasn't been the same since. He lost both members of his teammates in so short a period. I can't tell how miserable he must be. And I can tell that Minato is taking it just as hard. It reminded me of when I learned that Uzushiogakure had been destroyed. All those deaths, all those sacrifices, over a meaningless war. I just hope that we learn from this and never forget the men and women who sacrificed themselves for Konoha, and always remember their devotion to the will of fire. Naruto held his head down when he finished reading the last sentence. Now he understood why Kakashi-sensei never talked about his old team. Losing both of them, in so short a time, he doubted he would ever want to talk about it. But it also made him more determined to honor the sacrifices of those that gave their lives for the village. Kakashi's lesson still resonating in his head. Those that break the rules are trash. But those that abandon their comrades are worse than trash. I guess I still have a lot to learn about being a ninja, huh? He asked himself as he started reevaluating his own goal. The reason he wanted to become Hokage was so that he could get people to notice him more, so they would stop giving him those glares he felt upon him. But was that good enough? Was that really why he wanted or even should become Hokage? After reading this journal and finding out about the people that sacrificed their lives for the village, he wondered if that made him even worthy of trying to become Hokage. His mind briefly flashed to his teammates, and their mission to the Wave Country, and even to Hinata's fight. He looked to his hand that made the vow. Remembering that strengthened his resolve, but also readjusted it. Now, he felt that he wasn't going to become Hokage just to earn recognition. He was going to earn it to protect the ones he cared about and the village that he cared about. He would do it in honor of those that gave their lives for the village. He continued reading as he smiled at the next words. December 10th, Journal of Kushina Uzumaki. It finally happened. Minato has been named the Yondaime Hokage, his dream and mine finally coming true. He looked so happy, so proud standing before the village as he vowed to protect it with all he had. He finally achieved his dream, and I fulfilled my new one, to become the wife of the Hokage, so I can keep Minato from doing something stupid. Naruto chuckled a little at this, but that's not even the best news. Recently I was feeling a little under the weather. I thought it was just the flu, but the sickness just kept going every morning. So, I went to the doctor's and she confirmed something wonderful. I'm pregnant with Minato's child. Naruto noticed another set of dried tear marks. But from what he read, they weren't tears of sadness but joy. But it raised a question. The fourth Hokage and this Kushina lady were going to have a child. But what happened to it? You'd think something like this would have been public knowledge? What happened to the child? He continued reading while having a strange feeling in his chest. April 3rd, Journal of Kushina Uzumaki. Due to being pregnant, I've decided to take an official leave from active duty. I keep up my ninja skills, so don't worry about old Kushina getting rusty. But we had a visitor today, Minato's old master Jiraiya sensei, or as I like to call him, the pervy sage. I swear how Minato wasn't corrupted by his perverted influence I will never know. He wanted to come by and visit his former pupil and get an opinion on a book he was writing, which wasn't one of those perverted Ichika novel trash he usually writes. Those books Kakashi sensei reads? Naruto thought, thinking about the orange book before returning to the journal. He honestly believes that it wasn't any good, but Minato and I liked it. It was a story about a ninja that never gives up and never back down. That was the kind of person we want our son to be. Turns out we're having a baby boy. A little baby boy that will carry on our hopes and dreams. And now, thanks to Jiraiya, who we've decided to make his godfather, we've got the perfect name for our son, Naruto. He dropped the book in shock as bolted from the chair, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief as he stared at the page and his own name written inside. His hand shaking and his breath labored as he shook his head. No, 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 no. That can't be right. It can't be true. I can't. His mind refused to believe the fact. He was the son of the fourth Hokage. He was the son of the same man that sealed the nine-tailed fox inside him, the same man that had inadvertently caused him a life of isolation and loneliness with very little to care for him, and he was the man's son. And this woman, this Kushina Uzumaki of a lost Uzumaki clan, was his mother. But if I'm their son, then why? He narrowed his gaze as he thought of only one person that could have possibly known the truth. The one person he asked multiple times about his parents, and only ever received vague answers. The third Hokage. Snatching the book up, and snuffing the candle out, he marched his way out from the bunker. His heart still hammering in his chest as he went to confront a man that had lied to him for years. Hokage Manor, Office of the Hokage. Sarutobi sighed as he continued to file off the reports for the Chunin exam. Paperwork, the true mortal enemy of the Hokage title. He could never understand how his predecessor and successor, the second and the fourth Hokage, figured out how to deal with the dreaded enemy. He also had to deal with the council, his former teammate now advisors, and keep an eye on Danzo's little schemes that he was no doubt working on, not to mention the troubling report that Orochimaru may have returned to seek revenge on the village. If not for the report that the last Uchiha had received the curse mark was any indication of his return. The fact that these reports coincide with the Chunin exam was concerning, which was why he had just assigned Hate Gecko to observe one of the examinees that may have a link to Orochimaru, Kabuto Yakushi. Hopefully, he could uncover something and prevent whatever Orochimaru was planning. He sighed as he set his pen down and looked over to the photographs of the previous Hokages, his gaze resting on the final image as he stared at his successor that was taken from them too soon. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. While his reign was short, he had proven to be more than capable of the job, especially when he sacrificed himself to save the village during the Ninetales attack. An event that was still a mystery. They had everything in place to prevent the Ninetales from escaping, yet the reports indicated that somehow information was leaked, and someone had interrupted the proceedings, releasing the Ninetales from its previous host. But why? If they had the beast, why not escape with it? Why release it? To destroy Konoha? A lot of it was a mystery, one he hoped Jiraiya would find out as he gathered information. As he thought about Minato, his mind also drifted to Kushina and the child that they had left behind. Their sacrifice had saved Naruto's life and the village's, but robbed him of the parents that would have loved him. He knew he should tell him about his parents, but his father and mother had many enemies. If they had learned the fourth Hokage, aka the Yellow Flash, had a son and there was a true blood son of the Uzumaki clan still alive, they would do anything to get revenge on them by going through their only child. He was only thankful that Naruto was born with his father's hair, instead of the trademark red that identified all Uzumakis. He had made a promise to keep him safe, even if it meant keeping the truth from him. Old man! His attention was returned to reality as the door was busted open and said boy came barging in while struggling to escape the grasp of the two Chunin stationed to guard him. We need to talk, old man. We told you, you can't come in here. Lord Third is very busy right now. One of the Chunin barked as Naruto barked back. And I told you I don't give a damn. I need to talk to the old man right now. Get your hands off me. Hey! Don't grab there. Naruto yelled. Sarutobi sighed as he rubbed his aging forehead. The boy is too much like his mother than his father. he thought as he returned to his paperwork. What is it, Naruto? Normally I wouldn't mind the distraction, but I'm a little busy planning the second half of the Chunin exams. Whatever it is you have to talk to me about can wait until after the. It's about my mother, Kushina Uzumaki. His heart dropped into his stomach when he heard that name as he looked back up to the boy, who was glaring at him with a look of betrayal and anger while clutching a small leather-bound book in his hand. Where did you? He stopped when the Chunin holding Naruto gave him confused looks as they switched between the young Uzumaki and the aging Hokage. The old man sighed as he gestured them to leave. That'll be all, I'll take it from here, he told them as the Chunins looked confused but obliged all the same. The door closed softly behind him as the blue-eyed boy marched up to his desk and glared at the man. A moment of silence passed between them, as one waited for the other to speak. Until Naruto held up the journal and pointed to it. Is what's written here true? Is my father the fourth Hokage? Sarutobi knew he couldn't lie, not after he now knew the name of his mother, which no doubt would cause him to ask questions and connect a few dots with the other villagers. Finally, the old man sighed as he laced his fingers together. Yes, Naruto clenched his teeth as he growled in anger. So you knew? You knew who my parents were this whole time and didn't even bother to tell me. For years I've asked, nay begged you, to tell me who they were and all you ever said was it wouldn't matter. He slammed his hands on the desk as he glared into the man he trusted. Well, guess what, it did matter. Why didn't you tell me the fourth Hokage was my father? Why didn't you tell me I wasn't the only one to have the nine tails sealed inside of me? Why didn't you tell me about my goddamn parents? And why the hell did my father seal the nine tails inside of me? What else have you been lying to me about? Sarutobi didn't respond, merely listened to the young man venting in front of him. He sighed before addressing the child. Naruto, it's not as simple as you think. It is simple. It was so goddamn simple. Who were my parents? A simple question you could have answered just as many times that I asked you. Naruto, you have to understand that your parents had many enemies. Your mother's entire homeland was destroyed by a combined effort from 3 other nations. If they had found out that you were their son, they would have done anything to get revenge, even though both of them are dead. Yes, I lied to you about not knowing your parents, but it was for your own good, to keep you safe from those that would harm you. He pointed at the boy. Not to mention you tend to blurt out things that should be secret. You could have accidentally revealed your lineage and painted a target upon you and the village, but I'm not a little kid anymore. I can handle the truth. I haven't even told my own teammates about the 9 tails sealed inside of me. He argued back. Yet you just barged into my office, screaming your mother's name. Naruto recoiled a little at that. While you have managed to keep your Jinchuriki status a secret, that is so you can maintain a normal relationship with your friends. But your lineage, your identity, if it got out, old grudges would target the village. Maybe even spark another war. I chose to hide your past so that you would be safe. I couldn't risk your safety, or the village's, for the curiosity of a child. He reasoned as Naruto shook with anger until snapped his head up as tears gathered at the corner of his eyes. But that's not why I asked you about my parents. I don't care that Mom and Dad had enemies. I didn't care if they were famous or not. I just wanted to know dash. He paused as he held back his growing tears. I just wanted to know something, anything about them. Something to let me know that they actually loved me and didn't just abandon me as the villagers claim. His shoulders sagged as he hung his head. I just wanted to know that someone out there wanted me. Sarutobi looked at the boy as he, for the first time in years, had a look of pure sadness and hopelessness on his otherwise cheerful face. He had thought that by denying him the knowledge of his parents, he was keeping the boy safe. But now he realized that all it had done was bore a hole in the boy's heart, which made him feel as if he was unloved in this world when his parents loved him before he was even born. Especially as he received scorn and isolation from the villagers. It was then that realized that he should have told him in secret, at least let him know that they loved him. Minato, Kushina, I made a terrible mistake. Sarutobi got up and walked over to the boy as he embraced him in a hug, slightly startling the lad. Naruto, your mother and father, they loved you so much, even before you were born. They loved you with all their hearts, so much that I know they would be so proud of you. All these years I thought I was protecting you for them, but instead, I was protecting myself from guilt. I should have been the one to sacrifice myself that day. At least then you would have had parents that loved you. Instead, I denied you what you truly needed in this world. Naruto felt tears stinging his eyes as he felt warm in the embrace. I'm sorry, Naruto, I hope one day you can forgive me? Naruto didn't say anything as he slowly returned the embrace. They remained that way for a few minutes before Naruto separated and wiped the tears from his eyes. Can you tell me about my parents now? I promise I won't tell anyone else. I just want to know what they were like. The old man sadly shook his head. I can't. Not right now, not while some still would want to hurt you, both inside and outside the village. Naruto hung his head. But I will tell you everything you want to know later in private. Naruto looked up a little as he nodded. Okay, can I at least know what my mom looked like? I know what dad looks like, but he trailed off as the old man nodded and moved to his desk, activating a seal he had hidden. which produced a scroll that he unfurled and unsealed a small piece of rectangular paper. Here, he said as he handed the paper, as Naruto realized it was a photo. His eyes slowly widened as he gazed upon the image of a beautiful woman with long bright red hair, violet-colored eyes, and a warm gentle smile on her face. She appeared to be holding on to her swollen stomach, as no doubt that she was pregnant with him. He felt small tears forming in his eyes as he now had a face to match the name of his mother. Your father took that shortly before you were born. I found it hidden in this room after their passing. He truly loved both of you, Sarutobi said as Naruto nodded, desperately trying to hide the tears that were running down his cheeks. Can I keep this? I promise I won't show anyone. He asked as the old man nodded. Sure, but make sure that no one else sees it. We can't have anyone connecting you two until you're old enough. He advised as Naruto nodded and placed the photo in the journal, knowing that he would keep it safe. Thanks, old Lord Hokage, he said with the only amount of respect he had ever shown the old man. A little shocking to the third Hokage. I promise to take care of this. But promise me you'll tell me everything later, okay? He asked as the old man nodded. Deal. Now where did you find this? He asked as he pointed to the journal. Oh, I sort of fell into this bunker-looking thing out in the woods. I figured it was one of those ambush sites you told me to stay away from. He explained as Sarutobi nodded. Well, you're partially right. But that bunker was one of your father's. He had some built as a fallout shelter for you and your mother in case something ever happened to Konoha and he needed to get you two to safety. I had all their stuff moved there after their deaths. I'll probably have to get someone to fix it later. Naruto nodded at this. Now, shouldn't you be training? I assume Kakashi has some training plan set up for you? He asked as Naruto scoffed at this. Not really, he's spending all his time training Sasuke again and set me up with that closet pervert, Ebisu. The old man raised an eyebrow. Ebisu? No disrespect, but Ebisu is not fully equipped to train someone like Naruto. His chakra reserves are far too massive for someone of his caliber to effectively train. And as for focusing more on Sasuke, I know it's to keep an eye on the curse mark and help with his Sharingan, but I never would have thought that Kakashi would show favoritism. I'll need to talk with him later. I see. Tell you what, I know someone that may be a better fit for you. He was your father's sensei. His name is Jiraiya. Jiraiya? I just read about him. He was supposed to be my godfather, right? So where the hell has he been? He asked with a slightly aggressive tone at the end. Something Sarutobi had to sigh at. Yes, well, there's a reason for that, and I know you two will have some serious catching up to do. Naruto nodded. But I must warn you, your true heritage must remain a secret. You cannot tell anyone, not even your team. Until I know you can protect yourself. Naruto nodded as he grabbed the book and started to head out the door. He paused when he looked up to the photo of the fourth Hokage, feeling strange at the revelation that the man that he both idolized and caused his current life was his own father. Yet for some reason, he couldn't bring himself to hate him. Old man? He asked at the door. Is it all right if I use that bunker from time to time? The old man raised an eyebrow. What for? He asked as Naruto rubbed his arm awkwardly. Well, it's I want to look after their stuff, maybe even see if I can learn more about them. He asked as the man nodded. I understand, I would let you settle in their old home, but the property was sold off years ago. I'll have the hole repaired by the end of the day. I'll even give you a spare key to the bunker. You may learn more about them, I'm sure it's what they would want. Until then, head out to the hot spring area. If my hunch is right, that is where Jiraiya will be. Naruto nodded as he turned away. And Naruto, he called out before turning to him. Don't be too hard on him, there are reasons we kept things from you. Some you may understand, and some you may not. But know we did it for your safety. He said as Naruto pondered for a moment. I'm trying to be a ninja, right? I think my safety is the last thing I need to worry about. He said as the old man sighed. I see was all he said as Naruto left the office and allowed the old man to sit in his chair and sigh. Minato Kushina, please forgive me. I will set this right. That was all he said as he returned to his work. Konoha Hot Springs. The Konoha Hot Springs were one of the main tourist attractions of the hidden village. Built shortly after the construction of Konoha, the hot springs were renowned for their rejuvenating abilities and peaceful atmosphere. It was here that Naruto was in search of the man that was his father's sensei, and his supposed godfather. Man, how the heck am I supposed to find him? He groaned out in annoyance. I don't even know what he looks like. In retrospect, maybe I should have asked the old man for a description. He mused as she stroked his chin. He chuckled a little as he looked down to the journal hidden in his jumpsuit. Uzumaki impatience, huh mom? Okay, let's think, what did mom say Jiraiya was like? Well, she said he was dash. He was cut off as he heard a perverted giggling coming from his right as he looked over to spy a man looking over the hot springs with a perverted look on his face. The man was tall, had long spiky white hair tied into a ponytail, red markings on his face, and a wart on his nose. He wore a horned forehead protector with the kanji for oil, a green short shirt kimono and matching pants, under which was a mesh armor, arm guards, a black belt, traditional Japanese wooden sandals, and a red haori with 2 yellow circles on each side and carried a large scroll on his back. Oh yeah! This is great material. He giggled as Naruto stared blankly. Ah, that's right, Mum called him pervy sage, I can see why. He then glared as he gripped his fist. Mum's journal said that this man is supposed to be my godfather. Is this what he was doing this whole time? Peeping on girls, he thought bitterly as he ground his teeth. He then grinned as he thought up a nasty idea. Hey! What are you doing peeking on the woman's bath? He yelled out loud for all to hear, startling the man and alerting all the women. Jiraiya snapped his head around in fright. Hey! Keep it down, you brat! He hissed, only too late as the women took notice. What? A pervert! Kaya! Get that pervert! They heard as all sorts of bathhouse tools came flying over the wall, managing to peg the Jiraiya. Damn it, brat! Ladies, please, it's all a misunderstanding. He tried to explain as they came rushing at him, belting him with anything they had. After which he was left in a bruised fashion. Thank you, so much, young man. Some of the girls thanked Naruto as he laughed. It's no big deal. I was just passing by when I saw him. I'll get rid of him for ya, he said as they thanked him and walked away. He's out cold, might want to take him far from here, he thought as he then summoned a few clones and dragged him far from the bathhouse, before dumping some cold water on the man's face. Jiraiya coughing loudly as he woke up, while Naruto looked down on him with a raised eyebrow. Oh, are you dead? He asked as Jiraiya groaned and got back up. Nope, a man of my talent won't go down like this, plus their beating is nothing compared to Tsunade's, he groaned as he got back up while rubbing his jaw. He then turned and spotted Naruto as he hid his recognition. So, that's Minato's kid, he almost looks like him, he thought with brief nostalgia and a twinge of guilt. I guess it has been a long time, he thought. So, brat, mind telling me why you just ruined my perfectly good research? He asked as Naruto raised his eyebrow. Research? He asked, playing along like had no idea who he was. Look to me like you were just peeking on women, you pervert. Ha! Far from it, you brat. For you see, I am a writer, not a pervert. And peeping gives me the inspiration I need to write my famous novel, he proclaimed as he produced a copy of his book. Oh, my sensei reads that. Naruto acted surprised as he tapped his fist to his palm. I think it's just trash anyway. If you're the guy who writes it, you must not be that famous, he said as Jiraiya physically jumped back hurt. Trash! He yelled. Oh boy, he is so Kushina's brat. Disrespectful to true art, he thought as he shook himself from his stupor. Excuse me, but this is not trash. This is my work of art. My crowning achievement. And I am far from a nobody, you disrespectful little brat. For you see, on top of being a super pervert, I am not just an inspiring writer. He then started to do a kabuki dance as he got into a pose. For I am the holy sage of Mt. Myabokagama, the great toad sage of the Hidden Leaf Village. Master Jiraiya, he proclaimed as Naruto stared and then grinned. Oh. Yeah, I think I have heard of you. You're supposed to be the man who trained the fourth Hokage, right? He asked with enthusiasm as the man grinned and nodded. Which also means you're supposed to be my godfather, right? Seeing as both Mom and Dad got my name from your book, right? He asked as Jiraiya nodded, before his face turned to grim and shook, as he stared at the boy with surprise. What did you just gh? He never got to finish as Naruto took the opportunity to punch him in the stomach, causing the sage to hunch over in pain. That's what you get for abandoning me, he yelled as the man doubled over. Is this what you've been doing for the past 12 years of my life? Peeking on bathhouses and writing trashy novels? If my parents were here, I'm sure they would give you such a thrashing, he yelled with pure anger as Jiraiya managed to get back up. Wait a minute, you know? He asked as Naruto nodded. But I thought the old man agreed. I found out by myself. Thanks to this journal I found about my mother, he yelled as he showed the old leather-bound book. I also found out that the man who trained my dad was supposed to take care of me in case anything happened to them. Well, guess what? Something happened to them and I haven't seen hide or hair of you for 12 stinking years, he yelled as he then charged at the man. Whoa! Wait a minute! Jiraiya yelled as Naruto kept throwing fists at him, who avoided them. My parents trusted you, believed in you, and this is how you repay them. By leaving their only child alone to defend for himself. He summoned several clones as they attempted to dogpile the man. Just hear me out, he yelled as he dodged and flipped over the clones, dispelling them with fast movements. Shut up. I don't want to hear anything from an oath breaker like you, he yelled, letting his emotions fully take over him. Where were you when I was growing up? He threw punches and kicks as the sage managed to get a better footing and held off his attacks. Where were you when I was alone? Scared and afraid. Jiraiya didn't say anything as he decided to let him vent. Where were you when I needed someone to tell me I mattered? To tell me I did my best? He screamed as the corners of his eyes began to dampen. Where were you when I needed someone to take care of me? Where were you when I scraped my knee, came down with the flu or picked on by other kids? His fists grew slower and weaker as they didn't even hurt the man. Where were you when I need you the most? Where were you? His fists now just thumping on his chest as he slowly broke down. Jiraiya looking down with sadness in his eyes at the child before him. Where were you to tell me about my parents? By now he had been reduced to a crying child as Jiraiya stared at the young child that he was supposed to take care of. The guilt he had held in his heart weighed heavier that day than all the years he carried it combined. His arms slowly encircled around the boy's shoulders, bringing him into a small but meaningful hug. "I'm sorry, I truly am sorry, Naruto," he softly said as he stroked the boy's blonde hair, another reminder of his lost student. "I know that no words I say right now can excuse me for what I've done. And I have no doubt failed the promise I made to your parents," he said as the boy held his tongue and listened. "But like your parents, I have a duty to the village. To keep an eye out for those that would wish harm upon the home I love, just as your parents did when the Nine Tails broke free," he said as he held the boy at arm's length and kneeled to him. "But I promise you, I will make up for my error and train you to the highest degree. I know it will take a long time before you can ever forgive me, but I'm hoping I can make up for it in time," he promised as Naruto stared at the man with tears in his eyes, before wiping them away on his sleeve. "Okay," he said softly. "It will take a while before I forgive you, but I should at least give you the benefit of the doubt. That's what my parents would do, right?" he asked as the man nodded. "But can you promise me one thing?" he asked as Jiraiya blinked. "Can you tell me what my dad was like when he was my age?" he asked as the man nodded. "I will," he said as they parted. "Now I suppose I should help you with your training, right?" he asked as Naruto nodded, suddenly remembering his vow to Hinata. "Right. I need your help. I made it to the semi-finals of the Chunin exam, and I need to beat this guy named Niji. It's kind of a long story, but basically, he said some bullshit, and I need to teach him a lesson," he said as Jiraiya nodded. "I see. Well, if I recall, we have a month to get you trained up for the exam. That's not a lot of time, but I can work with it. Report back here tomorrow and we'll start your training first thing in the morning," he said as Naruto nodded before he glared. "You're not going to turn up late like Kakashi-sensei, are you?" he asked as Jiraiya chuckled. "No, of course not. Besides, I need to earn back your trust. Turning up late would not be a good start, huh?" he asked the boy who nodded. Now he then turned around as a perverted grin spread on his face. "I got some pretty ladies to check out," he grinned as he started walking away. "Why does every person I train with always turn out to be a pervert?" he asked himself before he sighed and looked up to the slowly descending sun. "It's getting late anyway, need some good sleep if I want to beat that Niji asshole," he said to himself as he walked away. A few hours later, Naruto finally made his way back to his apartment, as he turned on the lights in the hallway and he stared at the silence of the apartment. The empty feeling the house gave off still resonated as he stared at the place he called home for the past few years. But in his mind, he suddenly imagined walking into a loving home. His mother greeted him as he walked in and his father sat at the table reading a newspaper, before greeting and ruffling his head affectionately. He imagined a different life as they sat around the table and told stories about their day and feasted on his mother's home cooking. He felt the pain in his chest increase as tears began to build in the corner of his eyes and he slumped to the floor. Soft sobs escaping his lips as the walls he had built up over the years had come crashing down after so long, and he let out the pain he held inside. Life was cruel and unfair. He had learned that from an early age. But today seemed to be both a blessing and a curse. He had found the parents that loved him, and they had both been taken away. But he felt warm now as he imaged both his parents holding him affectionately as he cried his heart out. Life was unfair, but it's not like he was ever going to give up. He had vowed to become Hokage, to never back down and never give up. That was his ninja way. But he now also wanted to become the shinobi his parents believed he could be. To be the ninja that would inherit their wills and become the orange Hokage, to honor the yellow flash and the red-hot-blooded habanero of the hidden leaf. That was his ninja way. Sarutobi looked over his piles of paperwork as he sighed. Even after all these years, and his dedication to his job, he still found himself hating this infernal paperwork. Oh, why couldn't I have retired, chosen someone else to become Hokage and live a more quiet life? He asked himself for the umpteenth time. But then, that wouldn't be his way. To be Hokage was to protect everyone in the village, to stand vigil and firm against whatever threat dared to harm the leaf. And with the recent reports of Orochimaru on the loose, especially during the Chunin exam, no one else would be ready to take on his fallen pupil. Still, I should have just retired and been done with this infernal paperwork once and for all. I swear it will be the death of me. He joked to himself. Don't say that, sensei. He suddenly felt the presence of one of his former pupils as Jiraiya sat on the edge of the windowsill. You've still got plenty more years left in you, he said as Sarutobi sighed. Jiraiya, it's good to see you again. How have you been? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. The same as always, going forth, doing this and that. Writing my next bestseller, by the way, sensei. He reached into his coat and brought out a copy of his latest book. Here's the next issue, Jiraiya said with a small perverted grin as the man blushed but still took the book. Thank you for the gift, he said as he coughed into his hand and hid the book in his robes. I assume you're aware Orochimaru is on the move, Sarutobi said as Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, I heard rumors that Snake Bastard was plotting something. The fact he was spotted here in the village again is not a good sign, he said as Sarutobi nodded. Indeed, we need to be careful. No doubt he plans to attack the village of his old birth, all because I denied him the title of Hokage, he guessed as Jiraiya shook his head. It was always more than that, sensei, and you know it. Those experiments, his disregard for his fellow ninja or life for that matter, he would have made a terrible Hokage. You made the right choice, Jiraiya tried to comfort his sensei, who shook his head. And yet I didn't stop him. If I had, maybe none of this would be happening? He asked himself more than Jiraiya. He could still remember the day Orochimaru left the village, and how the old man didn't strike down his once favorite student. In any case, we'll deal with Orochimaru when he moves. But right now I assume you're here about Naruto? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, to tell you the truth, I was surprised the kid learned the truth about his parents, he said as Sarutobi nodded. So was I. But it seemed that Kushina had inadvertently left a gift behind for her son. I should have known her journal had contained sensitive information that could have leaked out into the open. But after their deaths, and with the village as it was after the Nine-Tails attack, I didn't consider it, he said as he sighed. Still, Naruto has shown more maturity than I gave him credit for. He took the news better than I expected and seems more driven now to become Hokage. Makes me think I should have told him about his parents sooner? He asked as Jiraiya shrugged. Maybe I should have been around more for him, but it's too late to change that now. Jiraiya looked over to the portrait of his former pupil as he felt his eyes upon him. I messed up, and didn't take my role as godfather more seriously. It's just every time I looked at him, all I could see was Minato and Kushina, and it hurt, he admitted, as he shook his head. Maybe that is just some lame excuse, and I hope they can forgive me someday, he wondered as Sarutobi thought the same. In any case, I wanted to talk about Naruto. Seeing as he's going up against that Neji kid in the semifinals, I want to help him get better. Make up for not being there for him when he needed me, he said as Sarutobi nodded. Good, I think Naruto will need your guidance now more than ever, he said as he handed the man Naruto's results from the Chunin exam. The young man is not as cool-headed as his father was, but he is just as creative. Not to mention the years he's spent as a prankster have given him a unique cunning neither of his parents had. He tends to charge in, not coming up with a strategy at first but proving to be able to come up with one on the fly. Impressive, but honestly not Chunin material at the moment, Sarutobi said as Jiraiya nodded as he looked over the file. I got that. I've got my work cut out for me, don't I? He asked as Sarutobi sighed. Despite my best efforts, few would train the boy. Iruka was the only one that taught him anything, but that didn't happen till around Naruto's 3rd year. And with my time being consumed with Hokage duties, there was not much I could do, not to mention, with Orochimaru supposedly targeting Sasuke, I need Kakashi to train and focus on Sasuke for the time being, he lamented as Jiraiya nodded. Boy, we messed up, didn't we? He asked his sensei as the man nodded. We have, but maybe it's time we righted some of our wrongs, and make sure Naruto fulfills his dream of becoming Hokage like his father, he said as they both looked at the photo of the 4th Hokage. Early morning, Naruto's apartment. Naruto woke up to a familiar ceiling, and his eyes still stung from crying the whole night. It confused him before he took a few seconds to put the pieces together with the events of yesterday. Oh yeah, that's right. I found out who my parents were. While that's going to take some getting used to, he thought to himself, as the knowledge of his parents was still a foreign concept to him. But it was also uplifting to know who they were, and that they loved him so much. It even caused him to smile as he gripped his chest. Well, time to go meet up with Pervy Sage. I've got a month to get stronger so I can show Neji he's wrong about fate and junk, he said to himself as he got up from the bed and stretched with renewed enthusiasm, as he donned his orange clothing from the closest. It was some of the only clothing he had, but it was all the stores would sell him. At first, he never liked it because it was all he could afford. All the other stores would charge him way higher prices for normal clothing. He also suspected that they were hoping his orange outfit would get him killed one day, but he had decided to just wear them and prove them all wrong. However, after finding out that his father was the Yellow Flash, and his mother was the red-hot-blooded habanero, it became something more personal to him, although he thought to himself as he noticed some of the new holes he got from the preliminaries exam. I think I might need to update my wardrobe a little. I can't go around with holes in the back of my pants. Maybe Dad has some old clothes I could use? I'll stop by the bunker later and see, he said as he grabbed his keys, secured his pouches to his body, and grabbed his headband before tying it to his forehead. He looked at himself in the mirror, as he for a moment imagined his parents were behind him, hand on each shoulder as they smiled proudly at him. Before, he never really imagined what his parents would look like, so they'd be a blur or random looking. But now that he had faced the names, he could imagine what a life with them could have been like, and it hurt, but in a good way. They faded before he took out the photo from the journal in his pocket and stared at their faces. Mom, Dad, I promised to make you proud, he told himself before he hid the photo in the journal and exited the apartment, rushing off to the waterfall to begin his training for the Chunin exam finals. It didn't take long for him to reach it, as he spotted the white-haired man sitting under a tree, writing in a small notebook. Wow, you're here? Naruto said as Jiraiya looked up at the boy and chuckled. Of course, I said I was going to make up for a lot of lost time. Being late would have been a bad start, wouldn't it? He asked as Naruto nodded. Sorry, I'm just used to Kakashi-sensei always turning up hours late. So, what are you going to teach me? One of my dad's awesome jutsu? One of his ultra-secret techniques, so? Or maybe his secret ninjutsu scrolls that can be only unlocked by blood? He started getting excited at the possibilities. Water walking. Water walking. Today you're going to practice walking on water, Jiraiya said as Naruto stared at the man. To be honest, I was kind of expecting something a little more impressive, he admitted as the man chuckled. You are so much like your mother, she would always get overly excited about everything. You should have seen her when she found out she was pregnant. He trailed off when he saw Naruto grasping his chest, as the boy felt a warmth in his chest as he was compared to his mother. It was nice. You have to remember you're still a genin kid. While yes, you are the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and have more chakra than most your age, you are at the lowest level of being a ninja. Your father didn't become Hokage overnight. It took him years of training and mastery over the basics before he became the ninja he was. Heck, he even used some of the basics to create his most powerful jutsu. Everything starts with small steps, he told Naruto as he crossed his arms and huffed a little. I guess, he said before sighing. Okay, what do I have to do? Do you know the wall walking technique? Jiraiya asked as he nodded. It's similar to that, but instead of using your chakra to stick to a surface, you're using it to repel yourself above the surface of the water. You have to release a constant, steady stream of chakra and keep yourself above the water's surface, he explained as he went out and walked on the water. What I am doing right now is regulating the necessary chakra to keep me balanced. Like the tree exercise, too much, and you blow off the water. Too little and you sink, he explained, as he walked back to shore. But before that, I need to gauge your current skill level and see what I'm dealing with. Tell me, what techniques do you know so far? He asked. Well, I know the shadow clone technique, some shuriken and kunai skills, the transformation technique and the tree climbing technique, he listed off as Jiraiya. And? He asked, looking at him expecting more. And that's it? Naruto said as Jiraiya stared and blinked for a moment. That's it? You don't know any other techniques? He asked, a little perplexed. Well, I know the regular clone technique, but I suck at it. All my clones come out looking dead and lifeless for some reason? He admitted to his embarrassment before he noticed Jiraiya smack his face with his palm. A pervy sage? Are you kidding me? That's all you know? Back when I was a student, it was standard that genin had to know at least a few offensive and defensive types of jutsu before they could pass. What the hell is going on at that school? Arg. He groaned as he brought his hand down his face. Although I assume there weren't many at the academy that was willing to teach you, right? He asked as Naruto sighed and nodded. Yeah, the only one that was willing to teach me was Iruka-sensei. But he was busy most of the time and I kind of didn't help with my pranks, and all, he admitted as he rubbed the back of his head. Okay, we got a lot to make up for. More than I can probably get through before the finals. But for now, let's see if you can master the water walking technique. Jiraiya said as he gestured for the boy to walk on the water. Naruto nodded as he made his way to the water, but stopped when he remembered his mother's journal and his jacket, and placed the jacket and journal on a rock. Not wanting to get the only possession he had of his parents wet, he then placed his hands in the familiar hand sign and focused his chakra on the soles of his feet. But instead of clinging to the water, he made them repel as he slowly took a few steps before he sunk into the water. He breached the water surface, coughing out some water and making it back to shore. Damn it! Okay, let me try again. He yelled as he focused chakra again and stepped out onto the water, only to fall in again. Damn it! And so he tried again, and again and again and again. You inherited your mother's stubbornness. I can say that much, Jiraiya commented with a chuckle as Naruto emerged from the water. But instantly he could tell that something was wrong with the boy's chakra. Damn it! He threw off his shirt and focused again. This time he managed to keep himself afloat, with the water going up to his ankles, as he grinned. Oh yeah! That's more like it! He said to himself before he fell into the water. Damn it! Naruto, he yelled out as the boy emerged from the water. Come here for a minute, he said as Naruto raised a brow before walking back to him. I want you to focus your chakra again. Naruto was confused and concentrated on molding his chakra. As he did, the 8 trigram seal appeared over the boy's stomach. There it is, Minato's seal. It's just as complex as I thought. Minato must have mastered the Uzushiogakure sealing methods to create this little beauty. Using 2 4-symbol seals to make the hack seal, very smart. It's designed in a way to protect the kid from the Nine-Tails chakra influence, while slowly letting a little bit mixed into his chakra reserves. You are a clever man, Minato. His eyes then narrowed when a new seal appeared over the top. Ah, but someone recently overlapped it with a 5-pronged seal. An odd and even number seal explains why it's disrupting the flow of chakra in Naruto's body. No wonder he's having trouble mastering the water technique with this one. But this is rough and unrefined, not Minato's style. No, from the handiwork, this has Orochimaru written all over it. He surmised as he prepared to remove the seal. Okay, are you done, old man? Naruto asked as Jiraiya shook his head. Almost. Just raise your hands above your head, he told him as Naruto raised them above his head. Like this? He asked as Jiraiya nodded and subtly summoned the 5-pronged seal release behind his back. 5-pronged seal. Release! He mentally yelled and slammed his fingers into Naruto's stomach, causing the boy to gasp out and suddenly fly away from the man. The seal on his stomach disappeared, leaving only the 8 trigram seal behind. Gah! What the hell, pervy sage? Why the heck did you do that? He yelled as the man held up his hands in surrender. Relax, I was hitting a series of pressure points in your stomach to help you relax. Now why don't you try it again? He explained as Naruto looked confused. Okay? He said as Naruto approached the water and focused his chakra on the soles of his feet. Huh, that's weird, my chakra feels normal again, he thought to himself as he carefully walked out onto the water's surface. Hey! I did it! He yelled out with glee as he started to dance a little on the water's surface. Jiraiya watched on with a small smirk on his face, as his mind wandered back to his younger days when he trained the boy's father. Sure, Naruto wasn't like his father and more like his mother, but he had his heart. Okay, that's enough showboating. Now, before I continue training you, first we need to address something, he said as he kneeled to the boy. You are aware that you have 2 types of chakra, right? He asked as Naruto was confused for a moment before he remembered. Yeah, mine and the Ninetales, he said as he placed his hands on his stomach. My mother, she was like me. She had the Ninetales before me, right? He asked as the man nodded. That's right, it's one of Konoha's greatest and most closely guarded secrets since the time of the first Hokage. If you've read your mother's journal, then you know you are also not the first Jinchuriki of the Hidden Leaf, but also you are not the only Jinchuriki, he said as Naruto blinked. I'm not? He asked, shocked at hearing this, as the man nodded. Correct, I really shouldn't be telling you this, but since you found out about your mother and her former status, I guess it's only right to tell you. What you possess is one of the 9-tailed beasts that each of the 5 villages possesses. Konoha possesses the strongest of the beasts, the 9-tailed fox. Despite what everyone thinks, the 9-tails was here long before it managed to get loose years ago. During the Great Shinobi Wars, the tailed beasts Jinchuriki were often used as weapons against the enemy. But since it's more peaceful for the moment, it was decided that public knowledge of their existence was kept under wraps. At least here in Konoha, I'm still surprised you found out about it, Jiraiya admitted. Mum's journal told me about it. She was the 9-tails Jinchuriki before me. Did she ever master its chakra? Naruto asked out of curiosity. Not that I am aware of. Your mother was more like a warden with the 9-tails, making sure he never got out. And before her, the first 9-tails Jinchuriki, Mito Uzumaki, was accordingly a powerful fighter and seal master, but not much is known if she ever used his chakra. Jiraiya admitted only learning about Kushina's status after her death, as Naruto blinked at this. Wait, Mito Uzumaki? I think I remember reading about her in the journal. Was she a relative of mine? Naruto asked, intrigued by the fact that before him and his mother, another Uzumaki was the 9-tails Jinchuriki. Sort of, she was the first Hokage's wife and heiress to the Uzumaki clan before they were wiped out in the Third Shinobi War. So there's not much I can tell you. But in any case, as a Jinchuriki, you have access to 2 types of chakra, yours and the 9-tails. Those that are hosts to tailed beasts possess powerful chakra, but with more power comes a greater need for control. Have you ever felt the 9-tails chakra seeping into you? He asked as Naruto pondered. I think so. I sort of remember the mission back at the Wave Country, and then again in the forest. I blacked out, and when I came to, the fighting was over. Naruto admitted as Jiraiya nodded. And how would you describe this chakra? What did it feel like? He asked as Naruto pondered, thinking about it. Well, my normal chakra feels blue. But this one felt red and it made me angry, very angry, he tried to explain. But the earliest memories of using the 9-tails chakra were sketchy at best. Makes sense, your father designed the seals so that it would only leak out a portion of the 9-tails chakra, in what I assume was a way for your reserves to adapt to his chakra. And from what I know, tailed beast chakra is potent. Very potent. I'd want you to try and draw out this chakra, but given your current skills and my lack of guidance with your education, he said the last part with regret. We need to get you to remaster the basics. The basics? I don't have time for that. I need to get stronger now. There's this guy I need to face in the semifinals, and I can't do that if I have to go over the basics again. Naruto complained as Jiraiya folded his arms over his chest. And who exactly are you fighting against? He asked as Naruto contracted until he could remember the name. A guy named Niji Hyuga, he said as Jiraiya nodded. I've heard of him. He's part of the Hyuga clan's branch family. They say he's a genius when it comes to taijutsu. He'd be quite a challenge for you, he summarized as Naruto gripped his fist. But I have to beat him. He hurt his cousin, Hinata, and I promised I'd make him pay for what he did, he said as Jiraiya raised a brow. Interesting, you are doing all this for the clan heiress? He asked as he got a small grin on his face. Do you fancy her or something? He asked as Naruto raised a brow. What? No, I mean she's kind of weird, always quiet, and she can't seem to look me in the eye without her face turning red. I think she might have an illness or something? He pondered to himself as Jiraiya slapped his forehead. Sage above, give me strength. But he smiled a little. She didn't give up, no matter how much Niji tried to put her down, and I respect that, he said as he looked to his hand where he made the blood promise. The fact that Niji belittled her for it makes me mad, and I want to prove to him how wrong he is. So I need to get stronger so I can beat him. You get what I mean? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. I get you. Okay kid, we'll get you stronger, he said as Naruto nodded. To do this, I'm going to be serious with your training. I'm going to train you to both relearn and master the basics, and get you to gain some control over the 9-tails chakra, he said as Naruto blinked. Gain control, is that possible? he asked as Jiraiya nodded. It's happened before. Some containers have been able to harness and utilize their tailed beast's chakra over the years. You will be no different, so to do that, I'm also going to teach you a special technique that should help, Jiraiya explained as Naruto got bright-eyed. A special technique? Awesome! What is it? Naruto got excited as the man smirked and bit his thumb before going through a series of hand signs. Summoning jutsu. He yelled as a seal appeared on the ground and a large puff of smoke exploded out before Jiraiya stood on top of a large toad. Whoa! Naruto shouted in surprise. Summoning jutsu is a technique that can only be used if you have a contract with a certain life form. For example, your father and I both signed the toad summoning contract, which allowed us to summon toads into battle. Jiraiya explained as Naruto stared with awe. So cool! What does it do? Naruto asked with excitement. Well, that's the thing. Summons can range from a variety of skills, from tracking to combat. My former teammates used theirs for reconnaissance and healing. This guy's job, however, is contract holder, he said as the toad stretched out its tongue to the young Uzumaki. To summon these guys, you need to sign your name in blood on this scroll. That way you enter a contract with these guys to summon one. I want you to sign this so that I have a way to reach you in case of an emergency. Reach me how? Naruto asked in confusion as Jiraiya held up 2 fingers. The summoning contract works both ways. We can summon them, but they can also summon us in return. However, they exist in a place called Mount Myaboku, so you'd be brought there instead. But that part is more advanced for your level of training. This way, however, I can get the toads to summon you there in case of an emergency. Got it? He asked as Naruto scrunched his face up a little. Kind of, he admitted as Jiraiya sighed and shook his head. Just sign the contract, and then we can get started on summoning, he told him as Naruto nodded and unfurled the scroll. His eyes wandered over some of the older names written in dried-out blood before they paused on the last name written, Minato Namikaze. His father. Naruto stared at the name as his hand brushed up against the stained blood, and he imagined his father's hand being placed upon it. Jiraiya noticed this as he gave a small melancholy smile. Your father was my best student, he was almost like the son I never had. I know that if he was here today, he'd be proud, Jiraiya said as Naruto nodded, fighting back the tear that was about to fall from his eyes. It used to hurt not knowing, but now knowing who they are now, Naruto admitted. At least now I know that they loved me, Naruto said with a sad smile as Jiraiya placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Kid, they loved you before you were even born, never forget that, he said as Naruto nodded and bit his thumb and smeared his fingertips. He then signed his name in blood, right next to his father's, and placed his fingertips on the paper, completing the contract and becoming a part of the Toad's summoning pact. Okay, so for now let's work on summoning. We're going to do this to see what you can summon with normal chakra, then we focus on relearning the basics. By the end of the month, I plan to have at least know 2 offensive jutsu, 1 defensive, and hopefully learn how to summon a proper toad into battle. I'm also going to have you work on some taijutsu practice. At this point, it's too late to get you to learn a whole taijutsu art form before the match, but it will look better to the judges if you don't just charge your enemy. Your strategy skills will be another thing to work on. From what the old man told me, you tend to just charge in. Although he has noted that you tend to come up with unique methods on the fly, so we'll work on that. On top of all of that, we're going to work on you tapping into the Ninetales chakra. You got all that? Jiraiya asked as the top of Naruto's head was steaming. He said with some level of certainty. Seems like a lot though. Well, your father did more than that before he became Hokage, so you have to be prepared to work hard, he said as Naruto nodded. I know there is no easy path to becoming Hokage. He then bit his thumb, copied the hand signs and slammed his palm to the ground while shouting. Summoning jutsu. A large poof of smoke appeared, only to reveal a small tadpole. Jiraiya and Naruto both stared at the small flopping tadpole as both their eyes twitched. Before the tadpole returned to its home. This is going to take a lot more work than I thought, Jiraiya admitted as Naruto hung his head in shame. But, at least now we know where you are at the beginning. All things have one. So does training, Jiraiya tried to encourage the young man as Naruto looked up a little with some hope. Although your father did manage to summon a regular toad on his first try, he admitted as Naruto slumped again. But hey, this is not bad for your first attempt. And your father was a prodigy back then. Heck, the first time I'll admit I only managed to summon a tadpole myself, and look at me now, he said with open arms. A homeless pervert? Naruto quipped back as Jiraiya fell over. A sage. And a successful author. He yelled as Naruto chuckled a little, soon followed by Jiraiya. Well, it's getting late. We'll call it quits for today and pick it up again tomorrow, he said as he noticed the sun was going down. Come on, let's get something to eat, my treat. Yeah, I could go for some ramen right about now. Naruto perked up at the thought of his favorite food. Ha! Figures, if you're anything like your mother you'll have a huge appetite for the stuff, he said as Naruto's huge grin slowly morphed into a sad smile. Hey, he asked as Jiraiya looked back at him. Can you tell me more about them? He asked as Jiraiya started before nodding. Sure kid, let me tell you about the day they chose the name for you, he said as he led the child away. I was working on this novel and I wanted to show your father. I got the idea from some ramen. And his voice trailed off as they walked back to Konoha. Naruto listened intently as he heard more about his parents, what they were like and what they wanted for him. It was the first time in a long time that he paid attention to something, and he never interrupted once. How could he? He was learning more about his parents in one day than he had in his entire life. No way he was going to miss any of it. Later that night, Gaara of the Sand looked up to the moon as he once again had to suffer the effects of being an insomniac. A curse that his father had inflicted upon him ever since he sealed the one-tailed beast inside of him. Because of how the seal was designed, if he fell asleep, the one-tailed beast would take control and he would rampage across the village. The only thing that seemed to relax him was staring at the moon. But then, of course, he gets more anxious when the moon gets full. Suddenly he heard someone approach him as he looked down from his perch to see one of the sound ninjas from Otogekure, Dosu, steadily approach him. Shame, do you ever sleep? He asked the red-haired teen, who just glared at him. I was hoping to catch you off guard in your sleep so that I can face Sasuke in the finals. I have my orders after all, he said as he rolled up his sleeve and revealed his sound gauntlets. I know all about your sand attacks. Do you wonder which is faster, my sound or your sand? He asked as he prepared to attack. Gaara just sighed in annoyance as sand began to form around him. You're annoying. The sand took on a more monstrous form as it eclipsed the sound ninja. And he gets more bloodthirsty when the moon is full. Dosu's eyes widened as the sand took on a monstrous form and he felt fear resonate in his soul. What the hell are you? Was all he got to say before the sand destroyed him. All that was left of him was a mangled-up corpse. From the distance, Kabuto and Baki watched, as they watched the whole battle from start to finish. Kabuto smirked behind his glasses as he observed the one-tailed Jinchuriki. So that's his true identity. Impressive, even if it's only the one-tails. Kabuto observed as Baki raised a brow on the only exposed portion of his face. Are you sure this was okay? He was a sound ninja. After all, your allied Baki was a little concerned about Kabuto's lack of empathy towards his fellow sound ninja. It's fine, he had outlived his purpose, and had no real chance against Sasuke even if he somehow managed to beat Gaara, Kabuto said as Baki narrowed his gaze. But I thought his purpose was to test Sasuke's abilities? Baki asked as Hate hid from the pair from around the corner. After the incident at the hospital with the Umbu guards assigned to watch over Sasuke Uchiha, Hate visited his lover Yugao to make sure she was alright. After that and the promise they made under the moon, he was then assigned to investigate the identity of Kabuto Yakushi, the man identified as the assailant by Kakashi Hatake. He managed to track him down to this location, where he seemed to be meeting up with a jonin from the sand village, Baki. He narrowed his gaze as he hid from the pair. Oh, well, there's no need for that anymore. I had the task of abducting Sasuke-kun, but I failed. Kabuto admitted as Baki raised a brow. Yep, and now they know I'm a spy for the sound, Kabuto seemed to proudly admit as Baki stared at the man. That's not good news. If they found out you're a spy and find out about this meeting, our plan to crush the leaf will be effectively over before it can begin. I thought you were supposed to be Orochimaru's right-hand man, yet you got discovered and still chose to meet up with me. Seems sloppy if you asked me, Baki said as Kabuto smiled before his eyes narrowed into a glare. I let them find out about me. I wanted to see how they would react to this information and see how they would respond. After this, taking Sasuke won't be a problem at all, Kabuto informed Baki, grumbling in annoyance. If it looks like you will fail, then the sand will withdraw. You were the ones who came to us, remember? The sand will only act behind the scenes. That is the will of the Kazekage, Baki informed Kabuto, and nodded while Hate felt distressed. Not good, and why are the sand and the sound allies? Are you planning an attack? But why? The sand have been our allies for years, how can this be? Hate asked himself as he continued to listen. Kabuto then handed a scroll to Baki, who nodded. Here are our plans. My lord recommended that our allies be informed, so please do so. Once we make our move, there will be no going back, Kabuto said as Baki nodded. This is bad. I need to inform Lord Hokage. If the sand and sound have allied themselves for an invasion, I need to warn them, Hate concluded as he prepared to leave. Also, Kabuto suddenly said, much to Hate's shock. I think it's about time we clean up the little spy that's been watching us. I'll test what kind they have moving around, Kabuto said as Baki shook his head. No, I'll deal with him. As partners, the sand needs to contribute to the plan. After all, he then turned directly towards Hate as the sick jonin's eyes widened. It's just one rat. Hate bolted from there as fast as he could, as he tried to make it back to the Hokage's manor or to a more populated area to warn his fellow ninja. But he was unable to get away as Baki managed to corner him on a deserted rooftop. The two had spared quickly with kunai knives clashing against each other, only for Baki to spit sand into his eye. Hate managed to avoid any hit as they landed on a desolate roof. Hate gripped his blade in its sheath, but not drawing the blade as he and Baki stood at opposite ends of each other. My Mr. Examiner. What are you doing out here so late at night? It's not very polite to spy on others, you know, Baki mocked as Hate slowly drew his blade. Cough, cough, this is not good, looks like I have no choice but to fight, Hate thought to himself as he prepared his technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Hate managed to summon 2 clones as they sped towards the sand jonin. Baki managed to take out the other 2 when Hate brought his blade down. Leaf style, Dance of the Crescent Moon. Hate's blade struck the man in the shoulder, but the strike was too shallow as the blade was stuck in the sand ninja's flak jacket. I see, so this is the leaf stance of the crescent moon technique? Baki said, even though a blade was lodged into his shoulder, as Hate's eyes widened. It won't move, Hate thought before Baki held his blade with his spare hand. To master a technique at such a young age is impressive. Baki congratulated Hate as he tried to pull his sword free. Baki held up his hand as the wind began to gather around his index and middle finger. But while a steel blade can be stopped, the wind sped around his fingers as Baki stared into Hate's eyes. Nothing can stop a blade of wind. Hate didn't even have the time to react as blades of wind sliced into his body, and the last thoughts that went through his mind were his village, his fellow ninja, and his lover Yugao, and how he loathed the fact that he had failed them. Next day, waterfall. Naruto and Jiraiya met up early in the morning as Jiraiya had with him a stack of books, some training equipment, and a small set of weights. What's all this for, pervy sage? Naruto asked as Jiraiya groaned. I wish you wouldn't call me that, Jiraiya complained as Naruto stuck out his tongue. Well, don't be a perv, even my mum knew you were one. Said so in her journal, Naruto said as Jiraiya sighed. Either way, seeing as I want to make up the time we lost and get you ready for the exam, we're taking your training back a bit. Focusing on gaining more control over your chakra, and maybe drill some strategy into that hollow skull you call a head, Jiraiya said as Naruto gained a small tick on his head. Hey! My head is not hollow. I made it to the semifinals, didn't I? Naruto boasted as Jiraiya shook his head. Barely. From what I managed to gather, you barely scraped a pass. You didn't understand the point of the written exam was to cheat and use any skill you had for collecting information. You and that Sasuke boy got beat up in the forest by one examinee, though granted it was Orochimaru, but best he doesn't know about that, and you won against the Inuzuka by farting in his face. Face it, brat, you lucked out. By all accounts you should have lost, or failed after the first part of the exam. He told the young boy as Naruto grumbled and hung his head. But it's not the end of the world, and the finals are where you can turn it around. You just need to show them that you are or are capable of being a Chunin. And that involves showing strategy, skill, and combat ability. Whereas the first two parts of the exam focused on reconnaissance and survival, the final section will be the deciding factor. So we need to take this time to improve upon your weakness, and polish up your strengths. Jiraiya said, going into full mentor mode. Hell, I haven't done this since Minato was my pupil. Though to be honest, that kid was so talented he outshined even me in the end. He thought to himself as Naruto picked up one of the books on strategy, and already felt his brain was about to burst. Ah man, do I have to do this? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. If you want to get promoted, yes, otherwise if you don't you might find yourself having to do it again down the line. You wouldn't want that, would you? He asked as Naruto could only imagine not getting promoted because of his lack of studying. But then he thought about everything his parents had to go through to become shinobi of the Hidden Leaf, and he remembered the words he told Konohamaru. There were no shortcuts to becoming Hokage. So whether he liked it or not, he had to study. Okay, pervy sage, let's do this. That's the spirit. And don't call me pervy sage. Call me sensei. Okay, pervy sensei, that's a bet, HEY. You little brat. It had been one day into Naruto's training, and he still had yet to fully summon a proper toad. Even though the seal Orochimaru had placed on top of Minato's was gone, the boy's chakra control was still subpar. The jutsu required a large amount of chakra to effectively summon a toad into battle, and yet so far. Summoning jutsu! Naruto yelled as he slammed his palm to the ground. The summoning seal and a large poof of smoke appeared. Only instead of a toad, still a tadpole, Naruto lamented as he and Jiraiya looked down at the small tadpole flopping around on the ground. You'd think little guys like these shouldn't be able to be summoned, right? He asked as Jiraiya shrugged. A true summoner can effectively call the desired summon they need. But that requires focused and precise chakra control. Until you gain proper control of your chakra, your summon is going to continue to be random, Jiraiya said as the tadpole poofed back to Mount Maiboku. But don't take it too harshly. As the old saying goes, Konoha wasn't built in a day, so we just need to keep practicing. Besides, there's more to work on than just your chakra control, Jiraiya said as he gestured for Naruto to sit down and held up one finger. First off, your tactics. Strategy is an important part of any battle. By planning, and knowing your opponent's next move, you can effectively control the battlefield. The Chunin exams are more of a simulation of what it's like to be a Chunin. How your decisions will affect how real-life missions will play out. Luckily, because it's only an exam, you've seen how your opponents can fight. In a normal battle, you wouldn't be so lucky. While the old man has told me of your unique ability to come up with effective plans on the fly, it would be more impressive to the judges if you showed that kind of thinking during the finals, Jiraiya told him as Naruto shot up a little. Hey! I've been reading all those books you gave me. It's not my fault it's all so long and boring. He shouted as Jiraiya sighed and held up a second finger. Second is your chakra control. Despite your large reserves, your chakra control is pretty bad, kid. Not entirely your fault. Lack of guidance and patience can be attributed to me and the academy, he said with a hint of shame in his voice. But it's also due to your large chakra reserves. The advantage of such larger reserves is that you can use a higher class of jutsu. It's why the normal clone technique doesn't work for you. Because you keep overloading the jutsu. But the downside is that having larger reserves means a greater need for control. He emphasized, as Naruto nodded. Third, is your jutsus. I know you only have the basics. Something I need to talk to the old man about. But at your age, genin should know at least some other jutsus. However, some of them are clan members, so they are more likely to learn from their clans. I can try and teach you other jutsu, but given the time we have left, the jutsu wouldn't be all-powerful. And I doubt I can teach you how to change your chakra nature in time to increase their effectiveness. Jiraiya lamented as Naruto raised a brow. Change my chakra nature? He asked as Jiraiya sighed. Let me guess, you don't know about chakra nature, do you? He asked as Naruto nodded and Jiraiya rubbed a palm over his face. Oh boy, I've got a lot to work with, he said as he shook his head. Okay, so you know that chakra is what powers jutsu, yes? He asked as Naruto nodded. Okay, good. Well, there are 5 basic elements that chakra can be molded into. Earth, fire, wind, water, and lightning. Well, people are born with either 1 or 2 of these elements. Until it's tested, you won't know what jutsu you'd be more capable of doing. Say you were born with fire chakra, you would be more capable of changing your chakra into fire, thus making you able to perform fire-style jutsu easier than, say, water-style. But that's not to say you can't learn to use other jutsus, so long as you know the hand signs. It's just more preferred to know how to change your element into that particular nature, and it takes more training. But as you are right now, I can't teach you any such elemental jutsu until you have a firmer grasp on her basics. He instructed as Naruto looked confused. But Sasuke can use fireball jutsus, why can't I? He asked as he remembered Sasuke using fireball jutsu while Jiraiya sighed. He more than likely knows the hand signs and practiced that jutsu a lot when he was back in the academy. Plus, given he's an Uchiha, he would have been born with fire elemental chakra, the most common type of chakra nature in the land of fire. So it was easier for him. If I taught you such a jutsu, you'd burn through unnecessary amounts of chakra, he said as Naruto grumbled. Of course, it is for Sasuke, he grumbled as Jiraiya waved his hand. Relax, brat, I can still teach you a few non-element based jutsus, like ones that involve your shadow clones. Which appears to be your specialty, he said as Naruto got excited as Jiraiya raised his 4th finger. And finally, is your temperament, he began before Naruto tilted his head. My temper what? Naruto asked with a confused look on his face, as Jiraiya sighed. Your temperament, your anger. From what I've gathered, you tend to fly off the handle sometimes and charge into a fight without thinking ahead. And seeing how you're revered up to fight this Niji, you're not going to be thinking straight. He stated plainly as Naruto stood up. But I have to beat him. He said all those horrible things to Hinata. I can't just let that go. Naruto argued as Jiraiya nodded. And I'm not. I think what you're doing for her is honorable, and kind of cute actually, Jiraiya said as Naruto looked confused. A young man declaring that he shall battle the one that harmed a beautiful maiden. That's top-grade reading material right there, he said as Naruto felt blood pressure form in his head. Shut it, pervy sage. He growled between his teeth before Jiraiya looked seriously at him. But what I'm trying to get at is that you can't rush into this battle head-on. A good strategy and a cool head are better to have to go into a battle than one clouded by anger and resentment. Your father knew how to keep himself calm and collected at all times, and it's what made him one of the most feared shinobi in the lands, he said as Naruto stopped and looked towards the Hokage monument in the far distance, as if he could just make out his father's head. My dad, huh? So strange to hear that, he said as he sat down while folding his arms and sighing. I guess you've got a point, pervy sensei, he said as Jiraiya nodded, but felt his eyelid twitch at the pervy sensei comment. I'll ignore that, but anyway, don't fret. If I have this planned out right, I believe you can beat Niji in the finals and prove to him that fate is not as set in stone as he thinks it is, Jiraiya said, while mentally chuckling at the fact Naruto was supposedly the child of prophecy from the Toad's predictions. Okay, so, what should I do? He asked, as Jiraiya hummed to himself. Well, the first thing you need to know is your opponent. What can you tell me about the Hyuga? He asked as Naruto started, then scrunched his face in concentration. Well, they're a clan with the Baikaken, Naruto said, messing up the name. Byakugan, Jiraiya corrected as Naruto nodded. Right, and they can see chakra, I think? He tried to remember Kurinai's, or was it Shino's, explanation during Hinata's match against Niji. Correct, the Hyuga clan can see chakra using their Byakugan, a dijutsu that is similar to the Sharingan, but grants them a near 360 degrees field of view and X-ray vision. But not only that, but they can also see the chakra coils within your body and have a unique fighting style that allows them to target the tenketsu in the body. And before you ask, he stopped Naruto from asking. Tenketsu are the chakra points located around the body where chakra can be released, such as your hands and feet. By targeting it with their gentle fist style, they can effectively render a person incapable of using their chakra until the tenketsu are unsealed by a medic. It's what made them one of the best close-range combatants of the Hidden Leaf, he said as Naruto stared. Really? That explains what happened to Hinata. Ah man! How am I supposed to go up against that? I call Kekkei Genkai's hacks, he shouted as Jiraiya chuckled. Relax, kid, the Hyuga clan may be tough, but they ain't invincible. No one is. You just need to think carefully about how to overcome Niji, he advised as Naruto titled his head. I don't suppose you'd tell me how to beat him? he asked as Jiraiya shook his head. Nope, no can do, he said as Naruto flinched back. Huh? But why not? Aren't you supposed to train me? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. I am, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give you the answer straight up. The point of the exam is for you to prove your potential as a Chunin. I can help you train and make you stronger, but I can't tell you how to win all your battles. That will be up to you, he said as Naruto stared at him. That sounded really wise, Naruto said as Jiraiya smirked. Of course it was. I am after all the great and gallant Toad Sage of Mount Myaboku. My wisdom knows no bounds, so sorry kid. But you're going to have to figure it out on your own, he said as Naruto stared before he performed a simple hand sign, sexy jutsu. Naruto placed his hands together and transformed into a sexy female version of himself. Jiraiya instantly had a nosebleed and nearly rocketed off from the blood loss. Gallant, huh? More like perverted if you asked me, Naruto said as he transformed back, while Jiraiya made his way back to Naruto. Hee, interesting jutsu kid, though I doubt it will work on this Niji, he told Naruto, as marveled at the perverted ninjutsu before a dark thought came over him. Wait, if Kushina was alive right now and she saw jutsu, he didn't need to finish that sentence. Anyway, let's go back to your training. We've only got 28 days until the finals. Not a lot of time, but we can't worry about that. Now, let's focus on some of the chakra control exercises. He flicked a small leaf onto Naruto's forehead as he craned his eyes up to the leaf. This is, I see you recognize it. It's the leaf concentration technique. You must have learned about this at the academy, correct? He asked as Naruto started chuckling nervously. Yeah, the thing is I didn't pay attention when Irika-sensei tried to teach it to me, he admitted as Jiraiya sighed. You are not making this easy, kid, he said while rubbing the bridge of his nose. Okay, basically you have to focus your chakra on that leaf, making it stick to your forehead. It's a way to help you focus your chakra more, as well as to help you focus your mind. Which, as I've seen in the past few days, is pretty much scattered, he said as Naruto clicked his tongue in annoyance. TCH. I ain't scatterbrained, you pervy sage, he yelled. I told you to stop calling me that. But he stopped himself as he held up his hands and breathed in a calming breath. Look, we don't have a lot of time. We need to get you more focused, get better control of your chakra, and maybe even tap into the Ninetales' power. It's the only way you'll move up the ranks, he said as Naruto sighed and looked down at his stomach. The Ninetales, he held a hand over the seal, as he thought about the monster that had effectively forced isolation and loneliness on his life. Do you think I can learn to control its chakra? To be honest, I'm not sure, Jiraiya admitted as Naruto hung his head. But your father must have believed you would. Naruto looked back up as Jiraiya was scratching his cheek. Otherwise he wouldn't have sealed it in you. The thing about your father, he always had a reason behind everything he did. Planned things and saw what needed to be done. He was a man ahead of his time, and for some reason, he entrusted the future of the village to you, his son. Speaks a lot about his faith in you, he told Naruto as the young boy smiled softly, feeling a sense of warmth in his chest. Thanks, pervy sage, he said as Jiraiya just sighed. It seemed his mother's biological traits were too hard to crack. But he was glad to see the boy being a little happier, knowing just how much he meant to his parents. Alright, now for the next few hours, focus on the leaf concentration technique. After that we'll spend some time working on your taijutsu, then on summoning and finally tapping into the Ninetales chakra, Jiraiya instructed as Naruto nodded. Okay, wait, then what are you going to do? He asked as the white-haired man grinned. I'm going to go and do some important research, he said with a perverted grin slowly forming on his face. See you in a few hours, my boy, he yelled as he dashed off to the hot springs. Naruto sighed. Typical Naruto sighed as he placed the leaf on his forehead and began to concentrate. He imagined his chakra flowing towards the leaf, similar to how he used his chakra to make his feet stick to the surface of the tree. He sat there amongst the quiet sound of nature, the gentle rushing of the stream and the cool breeze of the spring air silently blowing past him. He remained focused on this task, trying to keep himself focused. Which was hard considering his scattered brain, and the small noises that kept bugging him, like the birds, the occasional fish that jumped out of the water, to even the tiny critters climbing up the trees. He kept this up for an hour until, damn it! Naruto suddenly yelled. This is so boring, he yelled, throwing his hands in the air. Why does this have to be so boring? He complained as he sighed. I should be learning a new jutsu or something if I want to be Niji. But here I am sitting on my butt trying to make a leaf stick to my head, he said as he lay flat on his back. I bet Kakashi is teaching Sasuke all sorts of cool ninjutsu, he bitterly thought as he could just imagine his teammates/rival learning all sorts of new things while he was stuck relearning the basics. But he suddenly said as he looked through the tree leaves to the light piercing through, I think Mom and Dad had to do something like this when they were my age. I guess I really shouldn't complain. Growl. Suddenly his stomach began to rumble as he looked at his stomach. Ah man, it must be lunchtime. He sat up. I should go get something to eat, but I need to continue my training. Oh, I know. He crossed his fingers in the familiar hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu, he yelled as two clones appeared. Okay, go to Ichiraku Ramen and get some takeout ramen, he ordered as the clone nodded. You got it, boss, the clone said as he turned to walk away. And don't you dare eat it, he yelled as the Naruto clone snapped at him. What? Ah, come on. Why not? Because for one, I'm the one that's starving. 2, you're just a clone, I don't think you guys can eat, so it would be wasted on you. Oh yeah, you got a point, the clone said before he grumpily jumped away, leaving behind the original and the second clone. So what do I do? The second clone asked as Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I kind of need some company. And who better than myself? That sounds kind of sad, doesn't it? Yeah, Konoha village. Sakura was absent-mindedly walking around the village. She had just gone to see Sasuke in the hospital but was told that no visitors were allowed. After she left, she began thinking about her progress during the Chunin exam. Sure, she had better chakra control compared to Naruto and Sasuke, but that was only due to how limited her chakra was. She was smarter than Naruto, yet he had progressed to the finals, while she had ended up in a tie with Ino. And Sasuke, the boy she loved, was acting much colder to her ever since he got bit by that weird guy in the forest. She was the smartest of the team, yet she was being left behind by them. What is happening to me? When did I get so weak? She asked herself as she walked through the village. Naruto and Sasuke made it to the finals, but if this keeps up, I'm going to seriously fall behind. I used to mock Naruto for being dead last, but recently he's gotten so much stronger. And Sasuke, she remembered back to the Forest of Death when the curse mark overtook Sasuke and he brutally beat up that sound ninja. Sasuke's been acting colder, especially after what happened in the forest. I'm worried about what will happen to him, she sighed to herself as she looked up to the sky. Maybe I need to work on myself? I've been so focused on Sasuke that I've let myself go as a ninja. And Naruto has gotten so much further than me, it seems almost impossible to believe she remembered all the time Naruto would be arrogant, or stubborn, seeing him as a little kid compared to Sasuke, but she also remembered the times he stood up and showed his guts and determination. It was something she found inspiring. Maybe I've been a bit too hard on Naruto, he's not the same kid we knew from the academy, but I am not going on one of his dates. My heart still belongs to Sasuke, she declared as she continued her way home. It was then she spotted the familiar orange jumpsuit of her teammate as he happily hummed to himself. Ramen, I'm going to get some ramen. He hummed as Sakura sighed. Of course, she said as she decided not to bother him when he suddenly spotted her. Oh! Sakura-chan. He yelled as Sakura cringed a little at how loud he was yelling her name. But she just smiled and waved back. Oh, hey Naruto, how are you? She asked as the boy skipped towards her. Shouldn't you be off training with Kakashi-sensei? She asked as Naruto scoffed. Nah, Kakashi says he's going to train Sasuke, so I have to train with someone else. The only problem is the guy is a total pervert. He complained slightly as Sakura nodded. I see, so then why aren't you training right now? You know the finals are only 28 days from now. Don't tell me you're slacking off? She accused angrily as Naruto shook his head. Of course not. I'm training super hard to get my chakra control better. I just need to grab some food and get back to training, he said as he clenched his fist. I need to make that Niji guy pay for what he did to Hinata, he said with the same determination he had when he made the promise. Sakura blinked as she hid a smile. Of course, she, like everyone else in their grade, knew of the huge crush that the Hyuga princess had on the resident dead last of the academy. But they didn't care as practically every girl was after the much more attractive and talented Sasuke. Sakura and Ino's words. So they didn't mind, nor care as they couldn't understand what the shy girl saw in the blonde idiot. Although after the wave mission, she could kind of see what she saw, his determination, his loyalty and his willingness to keep going despite the odds stacked against him. But still, Naruto's no Sasuke. Oh well, the least I can do is give her a little help, she thought to herself. Speak of, how is Hinata? Have you gone to see her? She asked as Naruto blinked. No, I've kind of been caught up with training that I haven't had the time for. Why, do you think I should? He asked as Sakura felt a blood vessel appear on her head. Of course, you idiot! You made a promise to avenge her for her honor. And a maiden's honor is not something you should mess with. The least you can do is make sure she knows about it, you idiot. She then smashed her fist straight into Naruto's face as the clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Huh! Sakura blinked as she stared at the spot Naruto was. Wait, that was a clone? Then, where's the real Naruto? Waterfall. That moment, Naruto suddenly flinched as a rush of information went straight to his head, and he remembered Sakura's fist slamming into his face. Gah! Naruto and his clone yelled. What the heck? Why did Sakura just hit me like that? It's not like I didn't want to visit her. He yelled. Yeah. Tell me about it. Why does she always have to be so mean about it? His clone responded as Naruto nodded. Before he and the clone paused and blinked in confusion. Wait, how did we know that? He asked as he turned to the clone. How did we know Sakura just hit us? We were here the whole time, while Sakura is in the village, but how did? Naruto questioned himself as he tried to figure out what just happened. Did we just get the memories of the clone? Clone Naruto asked as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, the scroll didn't say anything about that, Naruto said before the clone looked concerned. Well, we did kind of skim some parts, he admitted as Naruto sighed. Yeah, you're probably right. We should ask someone, to find out what it means? Naruto suggested. Should we ask Pervy Sage when he gets back? The clone asked as Naruto shook his head. He's gone of perving and we have no idea when he'll be back. And we both know I can't concentrate if I got this on my mind. Kakashi-sensei? The clone suggested before Naruto scoffed. He's off training Sasuke somewhere, and I doubt he'd tell us about it. You know I think he doesn't believe we'll make it past Niji. But we'll show him, Naruto said with determination. How about the old man? The clone suggested the third Hokage. He might know what's going on. It was in the Forbidden Scroll after all. Maybe, but I think we shouldn't bother him as much. I'm still a little peeved that he kept secrets from us. Not to mention he'd be busy preparing for the exam. Plus I don't think the secretary likes us barging in all the time, Naruto said. How about that closet pervert Ebisu? The clone asked as Naruto and the clone both shook their heads. Now they both said as somewhere in the village, after being told by the Hokage that Jiraiya would handle Naruto's training, Ebisu felt a sudden jab at his pride. So who else could we ask? Naruto asked as he and the clone tried to put their heads together for someone they could ask about the shadow clone technique. Bonk 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 ding. Iruka-sensei. They both shouted as Naruto stood up. He's a teacher at the academy and was the one that let me pass. He must know more about the shadow clone. He wagered as his clone nodded before dispelling. Alright. Let's go find Iruka-sensei. He shouted as he dashed from the training grounds. Ichiraku ramen. Iruka Yumino sighed a breath of relief as he savored the smell coming from his ramen. It had been a long day, paperwork, grades and the occasional disruptive student. None however were on the same level as Naruto. He thanked the sage for that. One of his students, Konohamaru Sarutobi, had taken a shine to Naruto's determination to become Hokage. Admirable, but he had unfortunately also taken to mastering Naruto's perverted ninjutsu. One of the many prankster-level jutsus Naruto had created during his academy days. Speaking of Naruto, some days it was hard for anyone to believe that Iruka would be so calm and kind to Naruto. Nearly everyone in the village saw him as the demon fox and blamed him for the deaths of their loved ones, including Iruka's parents. But Iruka had long ago seen the truth, that Naruto was just like him, a child orphaned by the Ninetales and left without loving parents. He sympathized with him, and wanted to be there for him when no one else would. He still remembered hearing how his team's initial C-rank mission had escalated to an A-rank mission, and he worried about the young genin. Sure, he proved he had changed after the mission and was proud to hear that he made it to the finals of the Chunin exams. But he was still worried about him. Naruto was like a little brother to him, or maybe something more like a son, but he didn't fully know yet. Right now, he was proud of all his former students that had made it to the final round and just hoped they would continue on their path to becoming excellent shinobi. Long day, Iruka? Tucci asked as he and his daughter worked on making the next batch of ramen. Normally you would only come here with Naruto, or if you've had long work hours. Must be because of the Chunin exams, right? He asked as Iruka nodded. Sort of. I'm both worried and proud of my former students. From what I've heard, Shikamaru, Shino, Sasuke and Naruto made it to the finals. I'm not surprised about the first three, but hearing that Naruto made it so far makes me feel proud of him even more, Iruka said as Tucci blinked. Naruto made it to the finals? Well, the kid has a knack for surprising people, huh? Tucci chuckled as Iruka chuckled as well. Yes, I admit I was surprised when Naruto made it past the second stage of the exams. But at this point, I should learn to expect the unexpected from the number one hyperactive ninja of the hidden leaf. He looked at the broth, as he recalled a lone Naruto sitting on the swing as everyone avoided him. He certainly has grown up, more than I could have ever imagined. He took his chopsticks and started to dig in. Iruka-sensei. Iruka jostled and choked somewhat on his ramen, as Naruto burst into the stand. Iruka-sensei. I need to talk to cool ramen. Hey old man Tucci. Can I get a big bowl of miso pork? Naruto shouted as he suddenly got distracted and ordered ramen. Of course, he hasn't grown up that much, Iruka said as Tucci chuckled. Right, one miso pork, coming up. Tucci said as he and Ayumi got to work. Naruto grinned as he sat down on the stool. This is going to be so good. Naruto chuckled as he could just taste the ramen already. The bowl was set before him, the owners of the stand having long since known Naruto's patterns and prepared in record time. Naruto grinned as he broke apart the chopsticks and chowed down. Naruto, didn't you have something to ask me? Iruka asked as Naruto stopped halfway through his noodles to stare at his sensei before his noodle brain finished cooking. That's right. Iruka-sensei. I need your help. I gathered that much. What about Naruto? It's about my shadow clones. Your shadow clones? He asked as Naruto nodded. Yeah. See, while I was doing the leaf concentration training you taught me, I sent one of my clones here to get some ramen while I trained. But obviously, he never made it. He bumped into Sakura and she decked him in the face because I haven't seen Hinata in the hospital, Naruto explained. Hinata? Why would you need to visit her in the hospital? He asked as Naruto scratched his cheek. See, she lost during her fight against her cousin badly, and he said a bunch of mean things to her, saying she was weak and pathetic, and I didn't like that. So I kind of made a promise I'd prove him wrong, Naruto said as Iruka nodded. Interesting, I remember Niji from the academy. He was a top student, and the rookie of the year like Sasuke was, Iruka recalled as Naruto scoffed. Of course he was, Naruto thought bitterly before he shook his head. Anyway, Sakura got mad at me and punched me in the face. But the strange thing is I was at the training ground while Sakura and the clone were in the village. So, how the heck did I get those memories? You must know something about that, right? Naruto asked as Iruka blinked. Of course I do. The shadow clone is a jutsu only Jonin and few Chunin could perform. But they aren't fully designed for combat. They were created for reconnaissance. Didn't you read that part in the Forbidden Scroll? Iruka asked as Naruto looked away sheepishly while scratching the back of his head. Yes, see, the thing is, Iruka-sensei, I kind of skipped some parts, hee. He chuckled nervously as Iruka sighed. Of course you did alright, I guess I might as well give a brief recap. The shadow clone jutsu was created by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, during the early years of Konoha. Iruka explained. The second Hokage, you mean the stone face that's always scowling all the time? Naruto asked as he leaned out and pointed at the second Hokage's stone face. Iruka sighed as he shook his head at his less tactful word choice. But I've made hundreds of clones. I've never felt my chakra reserves get low, Naruto said as Iruka nodded. Well, in your case, Naruto, you have larger than average chakra reserves, so you seem to be able to bypass that effect. Although it may also have something to do with, he trailed off as Naruto picked up the hint, the Nine Tails chakra. Anyway, back to the history lesson. The second Hokage created the technique to act as recon, to scout the enemy position or use as decoys and relay the information back to the user without risk of injury to the user. Think of it as a memory transfer from one clone to the original. I'm surprised you didn't notice already? He asked as Naruto thought to himself. Not really. Every time I've used my clones was during fights. I guess I didn't notice because they were all in the same place. Naruto guessed as he titled his head. But wait, how does this whole memory transfer thing work? Well, I'm not certain, but I believe that whatever chakra remained in the clone that wasn't used gets sent back to the user. So that chakra carries with it the memories and experience of the clone and gives it back to the user. Iruka guessed as Naruto pondered this. Memories and experience, he thought to himself. Hey Iruka-sensei, what would happen if I train with my clones? He asked as Iruka paused. Well, now I don't know. Iruka admitted. Something like this hasn't been attempted before, mostly due to the drain the clones have on the user. But could it be possible? Iruka took a moment to think about it. Huh? What are you thinking, Iruka-sensei? Naruto asked Iruka before turning to his former student. Well, this is just a theory, but you have larger than average chakra reserves and insane amounts of stamina. Now again, this is just a theory, but if you trained with a shadow clone, you'd get twice the experience you would have by yourself. That means you could achieve more than a month's training in only a week, Iruka said as Naruto's eyes widened. Whoa, really? That sounds awesome. Naruto cheered before Iruka held his hand. Hold it, Naruto. As I said, this is only a theory. Something like this has never been attempted before because no one else has had chakra reserves as large as you. It could work, or it couldn't. You would have to test it, or ask someone who knows more about the shadow clones than I do, Iruka said as Naruto thought to himself. I see, I guess I'll have to ask Pervy Sage when he gets back, he said as Iruka raised a brow. Pervy Sage? Oh, he's my new sensei at the moment. Kakashi sensei is busy training Sasuke at the moment, so Pervy Sage is training me, Naruto said as Iruka said. I mean, who is Pervy Sage, and what have I told you about addressing people? Iruka scolded slightly as Naruto pouted. To treat them with respect, but the guy is a complete pervert. When I found him, he was peeking at the women's bathhouse. I can't believe that guy is supposed to be my GHM. Naruto luckily stopped himself from saying Godfather, but not the questioning gaze of Iruka. He's your what? Iruka asked as Naruto started chuckling nervously. A new sensei. Yeah, just my luck. Any teacher I get after you is some sort of pervert. Well, thanks for the meal. Naruto slammed a few Rio notes down as he bolted. Gotta get back to training. See ya later, Iruka-sensei, and thanks for the tip. Wait, Naruto. Iruka called out, but he was long gone. That boy, I swear, he said as he sat back down to finish his ramen. He remembered back to the night he gave Naruto his headband and the smile that was on his face. That boy, who had been through so much, lived a life of loneliness and isolation for something he had no control over. But despite everything stacked against him, he still managed to persevere and was determined to become Hokage one day. Good luck, Naruto. I'm rooting for you, he said as he continued to believe in his student. Hours later, waterfall. Jiraiya returned with a happy perverted smile on his face as he held in his hand his notes. That was a good research trip. I'm going to have so much material for my next book, he said to himself as he walked back to the waterfall. I guess I should go and check on Naruto. If I had to guess, I'd say he's just about had it learning the leaf concentration technique and wants to try summoning again. He smiled softly as he remembered back to the time he trained Minato. That boy is nothing like his father, but he has the same drive as both his parents. I know he'll become something truly amazing someday. He looked up to the sky and wondered if he'd be around long enough to see it. Oh well, no time like the present. He walked back into the clearing and blinked in surprise. There was Naruto, sitting under the tree channeling chakra into his leaf, while around him were 20 other clones of himself as they all seemed to be practicing the same technique. But the strangest thing was that Jiraiya could sense a subtle difference in the boy's control. It had sharply improved since he left, not to the point it was mastered, but it was noticeably better than when he left early that day. That's strange. How did he manage to improve his chakra control so well in such a short time? I wasn't gone that long, was I? He asked himself before he stepped closer to the boy. Naruto, what's going on here? He asked as Naruto opened his eyes and looked over at the man. Pervy sage. Guess what? You're not going to believe what I discovered, Naruto yelled as he looked over to his clones. Okay guys, that's enough, he ordered as the clones nodded and all dispelled. Naruto stumbled slightly from the rush of information. Whoa. Man, I've got to learn to stop to dispel them all at once. Whoa, you okay there, Naruto? What the heck is going on here? He asked. Naruto grinned. I just figured out a cool new trick, he said as Jiraiya raised his eyebrow. See, I found out the shadow clones I make give me all their knowledge once they're dispelled. Yes, I'm aware of how the shadow clone jutsu works, Jiraiya said as Naruto grinned. Well, I talked to Iruka-sensei and he figured that if I train with my clones, I gain more experience. That means I can get this chakra control down lickety-split, he said as Jiraiya blinked. Really? I see, yes, that could work. The shadow clones share their experience and knowledge with the original ones they dispel. And you can create roughly 100 clones, so if you train with 100 clones a day, you could gain years of experience in a short amount of time. Why didn't I think of this? Naruto grinned at this. Because I'm awesome, he said as Jiraiya shook his head. Not so fast, brat. Sure, this will help you gain better chakra control, and maybe even help you learn some jutsus before the finals. But this doesn't mean you'll get physically stronger, he said as Naruto raised a brow. What do you mean? I mean your physical body won't improve by the clone trick, only your mind will improve. The shadow clone can only pass on the knowledge of how to do things, but your physical body won't change. That will be up to you, putting in the manual hours, he explained as Naruto sighed. Ah man, and here I thought I was going to be able to do all sorts of taijutsu like bushy brows, Naruto complained as Jiraiya chuckled. Relax kid, this is a good thing. It means now that training will go a lot smoother now. Heck, now you can catch up on all the stuff you missed out in record time, but that also means I'll have to monitor all of your clones. And then I'd be missing out on my important research. Such a shame. He wept as Naruto raised a brow. Why do I always get the weird ones as my teachers? Naruto asked himself while Jiraiya got his act under control. Okay, enough of that. Now comes the serious part. We'll set up a series of training methods. For the first part of your training, you will create 150 clones. Each clone will be separated into groups of 50. Each group will focus on certain aspects of your training for 1 full week before moving on to the next phase. Understand? Jiraiya questioned as Naruto nodded. Phase 1 will be on your chakra control and knowledge. Phase 2 will focus on transforming your chakra element. Phase 3 will focus on learning new ninjutsu, and Phase 4 will focus on utilizing them in combat situations. While all this is happening, you and I will practice taijutsu and summoning, as well as attempt to draw upon the Ninetales' power. I will admit this plan will be hard and strenuous. Think you can handle it? He asked as Naruto grinned and held his fist to the man. Of course. I'm going to become Hokage after all. No way I'd be put off by some training, he yelled as Jiraiya smirked. Alright then, let's get down to business, kid, he said as Naruto smirked and crossed his fingers. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Meanwhile, Kikyo Castle. A squad of Umbus stood over the corpse of hate as they stared at their fallen comrade. One amongst them did everything they can to hold in their anger and despair as she stared down at the man. She bent down and picked up his blade, as she stared at the man that trained her in the way of the sword, and to who she had given her heart. Hate, how could this happen? She asked more herself than hate as she and the Umbu members stare at him. This is bad, we must inform Lord Hokage, the Umbu member said as they unfold a large scroll tarp and seal the corpse inside. Yugao, we must. I know we must inform Lord Hokage, the situation is dire, she spoke with a cold and emotionless tone. But they knew she was suffering, but as shinobi, as members of the Umbu Black Ops, they could not let their emotions get the best of them. They jumped away from the scene as Yugao silently vowed to find the one responsible for this personal travesty and make them pay. No matter how long it would take. 1 week had passed since Naruto and Jiraiya had discovered that the shadow clones could potentially increase the amount of skills Naruto could learn. Thanks to the clone trick, his chakra control was steadily but quickly growing daily. Thanks to it, he now could control his chakra flow much more smoothly than he could before and didn't waste unnecessary chakra. He was still a long way from becoming a master of chakra control, but it was a leap from where he was previously. While one set of clones worked on his chakra control, another group was busy reading and writing, to catch up on all the missed out lessons Naruto skipped out on when he was young. It was difficult at first, seeing as Naruto's attention span and lack of enthusiasm made it difficult for the clones to concentrate. But eventually when the trick kicked in, and the clones continued to read and write over and over again, it slowly started to have its effect. Although applying that knowledge was another thing. Meanwhile, the real Naruto and Jiraiya were focused on teaching the boy a semblance of taijutsu. The boy tended to just charge in and throw his fist at anyone that stood in his path, which was ineffective most of the time when his opponents were vastly superior to him in taijutsu. He made up for it by using clones as a small army to overwhelm his opponent, but the problem still lay in when he ran out of clones and would have to face his opponent head-on. Not to mention the clones were just as uncoordinated as their original. So, Jiraiya decided to teach the boy how to use his clones properly, by having him coordinate with them in fights, while also taking him through a few basics that he learned over his many years as a Toad Sage. Naruto charged at the sage as he swung his fists left and right, hoping to catch the old man off guard. But Jiraiya wasn't one of the 3 legendary Sannin for nothing, as he easily avoided the boy's attacks as if they were nothing. "You're doing it again. I told you to go through the basic steps. You just look like a street thug with the way you fight," Jiraiya said as he ducked and dodged the boy's fist. "Yeah. Well, I'm still getting the hang of it. Besides, you ain't seen nothing yet, pervy sage." Shadow Clone Jutsu. He summoned 2 shadow clones and they all charged at the man. Jiraiya ducked and weaved his way past the clones, and the original, as he threw them away like rag dolls. Naruto grew ever more furious as he charged and lunged at the man, who merely grabbed him by the back of his shirt and threw him into the river. Naruto barely managed to push chakra into his feet as he landed on the water's surface. "Impressive, at least your chakra control is getting better," Jiraiya commented as Naruto grinned. "This clone trick has helped me a lot." Naruto stood up. "With this trick, I feel like I can do just about anything," he said as Jiraiya narrowed his gaze in slight worry. "He's getting a little cocky," he thought to himself as Naruto charged at the man again, this time trying to use the taijutsu lesson against the sage. He swept his legs at the man who jumped over the attack, before dodging the 2 clones that had yet to be dispersed. He landed back on the ground, as he blocked Naruto's overhead kick, and then shoved him into one of his clones and dispelled it. The other clone lunged from behind as he tried to grab the man in a headlock, only for the man to grab the clone and throw him into the original. "Ah!" The clone yelled as he collided with the original and popped into a puff of smoke. "Ow!" Naruto groaned as he lay on the ground. "Okay, that's enough for now. Time for a break," Jiraiya called out as he walked over and helped Naruto up. "You're getting better, Naruto, but you've still got to work on that habit of rushing in. I've told you over and over again to think before you act," he said as Naruto pouted. "Easy for you to say, you know it's not as easy as you and Kakashi sensei tell me. I'm just not a thinking ahead kind of guy," Naruto complained. "Of that I have no doubt," he said before he handed a blue popsicle towards him. Naruto took the icy treat and then signaled his clones to disperse group by group. The information rushed to Naruto's head and he grunted slightly. "Still got to get used to that. Can't believe I never knew about this," Naruto lamented as he and Jiraiya sat under the shade of the tree. "It's part of the reason you need to learn to pay attention to things. If you had read the scroll property you would have known about the clone's memory transfer," Jiraiya said as he and Naruto sat under the shade. Yeah, hey, did you Jiraiya looked at Naruto. "Did you ever do this kind of thing with my dad?" he asked with curiosity, as the old sage smiled fondly. "I did. Your father was one of my best students. He had a talent for ninjutsu that was unrivaled by his classmates. I was assigned to him by the old man, but over time I began to see him like a son. Heck, he even taught me a few things." Jiraiya thought back fondly on his old student. "If you were assigned to him, did that mean you had a team like me? Did my dad have teammates?" Naruto asked as he nodded. "He did, but he sighed sadly. Over time they fell one by one until only your father remained. I think that was part of the reason your father worked so hard. He wanted to bring an end to the senseless conflict that had plagued our world," he said as Naruto looked down. "Do you remember their names?" he asked as the old man nodded. "I do, but it's been so long now, I find it best to leave them in peace," he said as Naruto nodded. "What about my mother? Who was her sensei?" he asked as Jiraiya placed a hand on his chin. "How you know? I don't know. I was busy at the time training your father or doing important research," he said as Naruto narrowed his gaze. "You mean peeping? Important research?" he stressed as he sighed. "Other than that, I think your mother was mostly taught by what remained of her old clan before they were wiped out in the Third Great Shinobi War," Jiraiya told him as Naruto became curious. "That's another thing I wanted to ask you, what were my mother's clan like?" "I've never heard of them before," Naruto asked, curious about his supposed lost clan. "Well, I'm not surprised the younger generation doesn't know about them, they died off years ago. But back then the Uzumaki were once a great and powerful clan. They lived in Yuzushiogaku, which roughly translated to the land hidden by whirling tidal pools. That symbol you have on your back there," he pointed to the red swirl on Naruto's back, "was the symbol of the Uzumaki clan. They were distant relatives of the Senju clan, the ones that founded the village. They even assisted in founding Konohagakure, which is why you see all those Chunin and Jonin wear them on their flak jackets, to honor the clan that helped them prosper," he lectured Naruto as he took off his jacket to stare at the red swirl. "Wow, I'm related to such an important clan. Eat that, Sasuke, I'm part of an important clan like you." "Ha!" he yelled with a grin. "Don't get cocky, kid. The Uchiha were also part of the founding members of Konoha, he said as Naruto slumped his head. Figures, he said before he blinked. Hey, if my clan was so important, why does no one remember them? He asked as Jiraiya sighed. That has mostly to do with what happened during the Third Great War. See, Uzumaki was feared by the other great nations due to their affinity for sealing jutsu, he said as Naruto raised a brow. I don't get it, what's so great about sealing jutsu? I mean, isn't that used mostly for sealing weapons into scrolls, right? He asked as Jiraiya shook his head. Not to the Uzumaki. To an Uzumaki, their prowess with sealing jutsu was pretty much unrivaled. They could create complex seals that would baffle the minds of anyone attempting to decipher it. Some seals could create powerful barriers, others could contain powerful attacks. They could seal giant monsters into the smallest of containers like the Nine Tails, for example, he said as Naruto looked down at his stomach where the seal was. But that wasn't the only reason, he said as Naruto raised a brow. The Uzumakis were also known for their longevity. Members of the Uzumaki clan had been known to live longer than average lifespans, which was why it was also considered the land of longevity, due to the tremendous life force they possessed. Mito Uzumaki, the first Kyo's wife and first container of the Nine Tails, lived well into your mother's age, he explained as Naruto listened in awe. Whoa, so what happened to the rest of them? I mean, they couldn't have all died, right? Do you think I might find them someday? He asked with a small amount of hope as Jiraiya shrugged. Who knows, after Uzumaki was destroyed, the clan spread out amongst the 5 nations. They were effectively scattered to the wind. There's no telling where they are now, or how many are still alive at this point, he said as Naruto looked down sadly. Oh, he said, bummed that he might not be able to find more of his relatives. Is there anything left of them? Well, I know that there's an old clan house located somewhere in the village, and a storage area for some masks they had. Not sure why, though, he said, as he tried to remember what he could about the Uzumaki clan. Other than that, I don't know, it's been years since I've thought about it. And I've got a pretty good memory, I see, he said as he pondered that knowledge for a moment. Hey, pervy sage, is it possible to go to this old clan house? I want to see if there's anything there that can help me learn more about my mother's clan, he asked as Jiraiya pondered. I don't know, kid. After the clan was wiped out and your mother died, the old home was pretty much abandoned. From what I can recall, there wasn't much left in there. Either the old man had most of it sealed off, or the clan hid their stuff pretty well, he said as Naruto shook his head. That doesn't matter, I just want to know more about them. I've always wanted to know more about where I came from, more about my family. If there's even a remote chance I can learn more about them, then I have to know, please, pervy sage? He asked, near begging the old man as he stared into his eyes. Ah, fine, we'll have a look. But don't blame me if we don't find much, he said as Naruto nodded. Thanks, pervy sage. Will you stop calling me that? You're worse than your mother. Well, maybe if you didn't go peeking all the time, Mum, and I wouldn't be right. Never. I am Jiraiya the Gallant, the sage of Mount Myaboku, and the greatest pervert that ever lived. Why would you be proud of that? Later, Uzumaki clan homestead. Standing there amongst the overgrown trees and the twisted roots of the forest stood the once proud homestead of the Uzumaki clan. While they once had a home in Uzumaki, there was a home for their diplomats and family members of Mito Uzumaki. It was here that Kushina spent her youth until the rest of her clansmen died out, and she died with Minato. After that, the homestead was left as a ruin of what it once was. The proud Uzumaki symbol still engraved atop its archway. Whoa, so this was the Uzumaki homestead. It looks kind of, he asked as he looked at the decayed building. Run down. Hey, after 13 years with no one to look after it, I'd like to see how your home would turn out, Jiraiya said as he looked over the house. But yeah, after your mother's passing, this place pretty much became a desolate waste. The old man wanted to keep up the maintenance, but with the state the village was in after the Nine Tails, and the resources it would take, the Shinobi Council decided it wasn't worth it, seeing as there were no Uzumaki left, he said as Naruto glared. Hey! I'm an Uzumaki! Why couldn't I have inherited it? He asked with annoyance in his voice. You have the Uzumaki name, but none of their looks. A telltale sign of any Uzumaki was that all of them were born with blood-red hair, a common trait amongst their clan, Jiraiya explained as Naruto paused and looked up to the strands of hair peeking above his field of vision. So then, why's my hair blonde? He asked, as Jiraiya shrugged. Who knows, maybe your father's genes were stronger than your mother's, which is impressive if you asked me, he said as Naruto raised a brow. What the heck do pants have to do with hair color? Naruto asked as Jiraiya slapped his forehead. Genes not genes, you idiot. Boy, your education is lacking, Jiraiya said as he sighed. Anyway, not sure what you're going to find here. Anything of value the old man would have likely locked up in the vaults, he said as Naruto walked over and ran his hand across the old wood. That's fine, he looked up at the spiral symbol as he felt the true weight of what had been left behind. I just wanted to see at least, he said as Jiraiya stared at the boy. Fair enough, I suppose. But just be careful, this place has become pretty. Naruto took a step forward and fell through the front steps. Decrepit. Why do I keep falling through things? Naruto asked as Jiraiya helped him back up. The pair eventually started looking around the old homestead. Jiraiya searched the old armory in the back, while Naruto, on the other hand, was looking through some of the old rooms. Most of it was old, rotten, and falling apart, but Naruto somehow had a sense that it was once a well-lived place, with people and family walking around the old homestead. He wondered briefly what his life would have been like if the Uzumaki hadn't been scattered. Would he have lived here? Would the villagers treat him the same as any of the other clans? Or because of the nine tails inside him, would he still have been seen as the creature that took everything from them? Different life, I suppose, Naruto said to himself as he looked around. Come on, there has to be something here, he said to himself as he looked around what appeared to be the clan head's office. If the giant tattered clan symbol on the wall is any indication. Nothing here. He looked under the old desk. Nothing here. He checked behind the bookcase. Nothing here. He finally checked floorboards for hidden compartments, but still nothing. Ah man. He groaned in annoyance. How about behind here? He pulled down the cloth symbol only to find nothing. TCH, damn, and here I thought it was going to be like in those movies where they hide stuff behind the curtain or something. He stopped when he noticed a faint-looking mark in the center of the wall. What's this? He fingered the mark as paint chips slowly flaked off. He pulled out a kunai and continued scratching the paint until he saw more of what looked like black markings spreading out from the center with a spiral pattern. What the hey? Pervy sage! Get in here! He yelled as the sage walked into the room. How many times have I told you not to call me him? He paused his rant as he looked at the wall that Naruto had found. Check this out, Naruto said as he stepped back from the wall. What is it? He asked as Jiraiya leaned forward to study the wall. The wall had large circular markings around the spiral seal, with the black markings being smaller kanji spreading out from the center. They were no doubt a formula to maintain the seal. They spread from the center to the corners of the wall, and around the edges as well. It looks like a seal of some sort. Pretty advanced, no doubt it's an Uzumaki design. I guess that it has to be some sort of storage seal, he wagered as Naruto raised a brow. What makes you say that? He asks as Jiraiya pointed. Because the wall is too thin to be anything else, and storage seals can store items within a small pocket dimension. You can even seal a living person inside if you wanted, he said as Naruto raised a brow. But I thought storage seals were only used on scrolls. Why did they put one on a wall? Naruto asked as Jiraiya held up a finger. But my young and foolish apprentice. Storage seals aren't necessarily bound to scrolls. It's not the item that the seal is placed on that matters, but the seal itself. You can place a seal on a piece of paper, and it would still have the desired effect. Scrolls are just more convenient, and you can place more sealing formulas on a scroll than on one piece of paper. Do you understand? He asked as Naruto looked like he was trying hard to understand. Once again I kind of skipped those classes, he admitted as Jiraiya sighed. Okay, another lesson you need to have your clones study, he said as Naruto groaned. But anyway, it looks pretty complex. Using a series of Heaven's Gate seals, I think I can unseal it. Using its counterpart, the Earth's Reach seals, it's not too complex to guess the hand signs to unlock it. You figured out the hand signs that easily? Naruto asked as Jiraiya nodded. Well, it's easier if you have a good knowledge of sealing jutsu, and you're a seal master like myself. But this component, Naruto cut the tip of your thumb for me, he asked, as the boy blinked in confusion but nodded as he bit his thumb and allowed a small dab of blood to seep out. Okay, once I finish the hand signs, I want you to place your thumb on the center of the seal and pour your chakra into it, okay? He asked as Naruto nodded and Jiraiya flashed through some seals. Sealing art, heaven and earth release. The seal glowed red as he turned to Naruto. Naruto! Now! He called out as Naruto slammed his hand into the seal. The seal then flashes white before the markings begin to recede towards the center, and the spiral seal closed in on itself, and out emerged a large scroll and a smaller scroll. The scrolls landed in Naruto's hands as he looked at the large scroll, similar to the one he stole from the Hokage's vault. But this one was red-marked and had the Uzumaki clan seal on the front. And the smaller scroll had a green lining. Hey, this looks like the scroll I stole, he said as Jiraiya took it from Naruto's hands. Close, but I don't think it's the same one, he said as he unfurled it and stared in slight awe. It can't be, it was thought to be lost. But it's been here this whole time, those crafty Uzumakis, he said as Naruto raised a brow. Ha! What are you going on about, pervy sage? Naruto asked as he turned back to Naruto. Naruto, do you have any idea what this is? He asked as Naruto shook his head. This is the supposed lost scroll of sealing, created by the Uzumaki clan. It's said to contain nearly every type of sealing jutsu they had ever created, and even the ones they were still working on but never completed. Iwa and Kumo searched the whole village trying to locate this scroll after Yuzushiogakure was destroyed, but they could never find it. Only bits and pieces of low-level sealing jutsu were left behind. But if the clan knew Yuzushiogakure was going to be attacked or destroyed, they must have sent it with Kushina in case anything happened. Clever, he said as Naruto looked over one of the pages and felt his head about to explode from all the complicated seal formulas. That's a lot. I can barely understand any of it. Naruto said as Jiraiya chuckled. I'm not surprised. A knucklehead like you would be incapable of understanding sealing of this magnitude. Even if you are descended from the Uzumaki clan, he said as Naruto pouted at him. But I admit even I'm a bit stumped myself. Most of it is encrypted, but that's standard for sealing masters. Wouldn't want their formulas being copied by other ninjas after all, he said as he rolled up the scroll. I best keep this hidden. Don't want anyone else to know this exists. He then bit his thumb and flashed through some jutsu. Summoning jutsu. He yelled and summoned a black and orange toad with dark markings around his eyes, mouth and a circular one just below his mouth. Oi Jiraiya, what's the deal? He asked as Naruto stared at the toad. Wow! What kind of toad is this one? He asked as Jiraiya turned to the boy and eyed him. What, ain't you ever seen a scroll toad before? He asked as Naruto blinked. Scroll toad? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. That's right, this is Jiraiya, a scroll toad from Mount Myaboku. His task is guarding the secrets of any toad summoner. I've used him and your father used him when he sealed the 9 tails inside you, he said as Jiraiya looked at the boy. Father? I see, so he's Minato's kid, the same one he used to seal the 9 tails in, he said as Naruto nodded. So anyway, what do you want with me, Jiraiya? He asked as he showed the Uzumaki sealing scroll. I want you to keep this with you. I can't trust it to anyone else, he said as the toad nodded and extended the rest of his body. Whoa! He stretched. Naruto yelled as Jiraiya bonked him on the head. Zip it, kid! Sorry, Jiraiya, kid's kind of an idiot, he explained as the toad nodded. It's fine, not the first time this has happened, he said as he unfurled his body and showed a blank space. Seal it here, and I'll take good care of it, he said as Jiraiya nodded and sealed the scroll of sealing into Jiraiya. There, you can get it back when you want it. Anything else? He asked as Jiraiya shook his head. That will be all, he said as Jiraiya nodded and reverse summoned himself back to Mount Myaboku. Okay, so that's done. What about this one? He asked as he held up the smaller scroll. Jiraiya took it in hand as he unfurled it and read the contents. Well, it's not a secret earth-shattering scroll, but it looks like a history scroll of sorts for future Uzumaki, he said as Naruto raised a brow. It's like one of your history scrolls, but this one details the history of the Uzumaki clan, their suspected origins to that of the Sage of Six Paths, their rise to power, their partnership with Konoha and the abilities they contained in their bodies, he said as Naruto grew curious about this and snatched the scroll from him. Whoa, Sage of the Six Paths? Who's that? He asked, unknowingly causing a subtle stir within the Nine-Tails cell. Seriously, did you pay any attention in the academy? He asked as Naruto shrugged. Only on the cool stuff, like the Hokage, ninjutsu and all that, he admitted as Jiraiya sighed. Okay, there's not much about him, but the legend goes that the first user of chakra was a man known as the Sage of Six Paths. A powerful figure that possessed powerful chakra and a unique Dijutsu, the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan? Like the Sharingan Sasuke and Kakashi sensei have? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. Correct. It was said he was the creator of ninjutsu and passed on his teachings of chakra. Jiraiya began to explain as Naruto listened. The story goes that the sage was so powerful he could create practically anything from nothing and was heralded as a savior of mankind. Eventually, it was said that he had 2 sons, an older son that inherited his powerful eyes and immense chakra, while the younger son inherited his father's physical prowess and immense life force energy. On the eve of his death, the sage chose the younger son as his successor, and a bitter rivalry were formed. Jiraiya explained much of what he knew from the toads as he looked over the scroll in his hand. It says here though that eventually, the descendants of the brothers became that of the Uchihas, the Senju and the Uzumaki clans, he explained as Naruto listened intently. Whoa, so you're saying, I'm descended from this sage of 6 guys? Naruto asked as the old man stared before he scoffed. Yeah, right, there's no actual evidence of the sage ever existing in the first place. It's more than likely just a story created by the 2 clans to make themselves sound more important, he said as Naruto felt a blood vessel forming on his head. That being said, I have met one who possessed the same eyes as the legend. Nagato, so there must be some evidence to the contrary, he thought to himself, as he handed the scroll back to Naruto. You should probably read this, and learn more about where your clan comes from. You might learn a thing or two from them, he suggested as Naruto nodded. What about the big scroll? When do I get to read that? He asked as Jiraiya smirked. Oh, interested in sealing jutsu now, are you? He asked as Naruto nodded. Yeah, I'm an Uzumaki, right? Which means I should know sealing jutsu at some point, right? Besides, learning it might make me feel closer to them, you know? He asked with a soft expression on his face. Jiraiya stared at him as he softly smiled at the young Uzumaki. Well, Jiraiya said as he rubbed the back of his head. It's far too late to learn anything practical in time for the exam. Even with the shadow clone trick, it takes years to become a seal master of my caliber, he explained as Naruto slumped. But I suppose we can get started on the fundamentals at least, he said as Naruto's eyes sparked in delight. But it means that you will have a ton more homework to do, on top of what you're learning right now. Sealing jutsu is not something that you can learn in an afternoon, got it? He asked as Naruto nodded, showing an increased determination. Of course. I'm going to become Hokage one day. I won't ever back down. Half an hour later, waterfall. A bunch of shadow clones had dead-eye expressions and steam rolling off their heads as all of them read copies of Sealing Jutsu Fundamentals. A lot of it went right over their heads as to them the formulas looked like an entirely different language. Ah. This is so hard. I can't even read this. Who came up with this? I hate it. The clones shouted amongst themselves as the real Naruto had smoke coming off his head. How the hell did my ancestors understand this nonsense? He yelled as Jiraiya laughed at him. Through hard work and dedication. I told you it wouldn't be easy. he said as Naruto grumbled and continued reading. So what, soon as I get this down I'll be so strong no one can stop me. Then I'll be the greatest Hokage there ever was, he proclaimed as Jiraiya narrowed his gaze. I'm glad to see that knowing more about his family has been good for him, but I'm starting to worry about his ego. The kid's got a big enough head as it is, and I've seen plenty of shinobi boasting their skills only to wind up in an early grave. Plus, he still has that problem of charging in without thinking, and if he's not careful, he'll just get himself or others hurt. I need to break that habit of his and teach him some humility, but the kid is stubborn and wouldn't take the lesson to heart unless it's hammered in, he pondered as he watched the boy continue to read and train with his clones. I guess I have to resort to that lesson. Next day, waterfall. Naruto stretched as he got ready for another day of training. The night before, he read over the history scroll his ancestors left behind, finding out all sorts of interesting things he never knew about a clan he didn't know he had. It gave him an invigorated sense of worth as he was prepared to make them and his parents proud of him. His mind was still partially overloaded by the seal formulas he studied well into the night, but he was determined to one day learn sealing jutsu. But right now, he had to focus on what he could learn and what he could improve. Okay, pervy sage, I'm ready for today's training, he said as he got into his basic taijutsu stance. But he noticed Jiraiya was acting differently from usual. A pervy sage? He asked as the man turned to him. Naruto, he said as he looked the boy dead in the eye. Today I want you to come at me with everything you have, he said as Naruto blinked in surprise. What? He asked, confused by the man's serious behavior. I want you to come at me with everything you have, all the skills you've learned, all the weapons you have, everything. I want you to come at me with everything you've got, he stated once more as Naruto was more than a little confused. Are you okay, pervy sage? You're kind of acting weird, Naruto said as the man only glared. You want to be Neji, correct? He asked as Naruto nodded. Then I need to see how much stronger you've become. If you don't, I'm not going to teach you any further, he stated as Naruto's eyes widened. But you said you would. And I did. But right now I need to see how committed you are, so face me head on with everything you have. Don't hold back, he said as Naruto stared before he pulled out his kunai knives. Okay, just don't blame me when I win, pervy sage, he said with arrogance as he crossed his fingers. Shadow Clone Jutsu, he shouted as several copies of Naruto appeared. Let's go, he shouted as all the clones rushed in. They jumped at the man, kunai in hand, as they swiped and attempted to stab the man, but Jiraiya instantly proved his superior skills as he instantly evaded their attacks and dispelled them with simple palm thrusts to the chest. The real Naruto tried to jump at him from behind, but Jiraiya grabbed him by the shirt and threw him into his clones. Damn it! Naruto growled, losing his patience. He and his clones pulled out kunai as they charged at the man, each one swinging their blades at the Sannin, who merely avoided their blades and defeated them quickly and without effort. Damn it! Naruto yelled before he was shocked in the face and went tumbling back into the trunk of a tree. Naruto looked up and glared as he got angrier, and he abandoned all the training he accumulated for sheer tenacity. Okay. Take this. Naruto yelled as he and his clones pulled out shurikens and threw them at the toad sage. Only when they hit did a puff of smoke appeared and all that remained was a log riddled with shuriken. Damn it! Substitution. Naruto cursed before Jiraiya's foot kicked him in the side of the head, and he bounced along the ground and landed on the water's surface. If he hadn't increased his chakra control with the shadow clone trick, he would have simply sunk into the water. Is that all you've got? If that's the extent of your abilities, then you will never become Hokage, let alone beat Neji, Jiraiya said as Naruto grew angrier and started throwing his kunai at the man. Jiraiya merely evaded with ease before he quickly flashed through some hand signs. Oh no, you don't! I'm not letting you use a jutsu! Naruto yelled as he threw a fist at Jiraiya, only for his fist to go through a bunch of leaves. Huh! What the heck? He yelled as noticed the leaves were swirling around him. What the heck is this? He asked before he heard a rustling in the bushes behind him. Aha! Got you! He yelled as he threw a kunai at the bush. H! He heard as he stopped. Huh! That didn't sound like pervy sage. He rushed towards the sound expecting to find a log with a kunai in it. Only instead of a log, it was something that made his eyes wide in terror. There on the ground, holding onto her shoulder was Sakura. Her hand grasped at the kunai knife embedded in her shoulder as blood slowly leaked from the wound. A terrified and pained expression on her face as she stared up at him. As Sakura? He asked with a trembling voice as she stared at him in pain. And Naruto, why would you? She asked in pain as Naruto stood then in shock. As Sakura, I didn't mean Sakura. He stepped towards her, only for her to back up in fear. Wait, please. I didn't mean to Sakura, I didn't. Oh God. He felt his heart hammering in his chest. Tears began to form in her eyes as Sakura backed off from Naruto. Stay away from me, she said as Naruto felt his vision blur and tears began to form in his eyes. As Sakura, he felt a shadow behind him as he turned to see Jiraiya standing behind him. His arms crossed and a blank look on his face. Be pervy sage, why you got to help as Sakura's been. He held his hands to his head. I didn't mean to hurt her. I couldn't. Why aren't you helping me? he screamed as Jiraiya stared and pointed. Naruto, look, he said as Naruto hesitantly turned back to Sakura, only to find a log with his kunai knife in the wood. What? But where's Sakura? He asked as he looked all around. She was never here. I used a genjutsu to simulate one of your worst fears. This was all part of your lesson, he said as Naruto stared at the log and then grew incredibly angry. So much so that red chakra began to leak into his eyes. Why would you do that? He yelled as he grabbed the man's vest and glared with red slit-like eyes and elongated canines. Why would you show me something like that? What the hell is wrong with you? He screamed as more of the Nine-Tails chakra began to leak into Naruto's system before a paper seal was slapped onto his forehead. The red chakra began to recede as Naruto fell to his knees feeling weak. What did you? He said before he collapsed to the ground unconscious. That was close, so the Nine-Tails power is drawn out by anger. Interesting, he said as he picked up the boy and placed him under the tree. A bucket of water was dumped onto Naruto as he woke up with a start. Ah! Naruto screamed as he felt the cold chill of the water. Have you cooled down yet, kid? He heard as he turned his head towards Jiraiya, who was sitting on a rock and writing in a small notebook. What happened? Suddenly his memory came rushing back and he snapped his head to Jiraiya. You bastard! Why the hell did you make me see that? He yelled angrily. I needed to teach you a lesson, and knowing your stubbornness, I felt it was the only way it would get through to you, he said as Naruto glared. What lesson? To realize what a sick fuck you are. Why the hell did you make me think I hurt Sakura? Because you needed to see what would happen if you keep rushing in, Jiraiya said as Naruto stopped. Think about it, I asked you to come at me with everything you had. You did, without a thought or care, you attacked me with everything you had. And in doing so, you failed to notice the genjutsu I placed you under. At that moment, you hurt your comrade. He said as Naruto just stood there numb and looked down at his hand as it shook slightly. But it was just a genjutsu, right? Sakura wasn't hurt, was she? He asked with a scared voice. No, luckily she wasn't. But if she had been, and you pulled a move like that, then she could have been seriously hurt or worse, he said with the utmost seriousness as Naruto felt a jab in his heart. The problem you have is that you keep rushing in without thinking about how your actions will affect others. If you had taken the moment, you would have realized you were caught in a genjutsu, and that is my weakest ability. The fact you didn't even notice speaks volumes of thick-headedness. I know that sometimes it can't be helped, but a majority of the time, a ninja must be able to think rationally before they act. If they don't just endanger the mission or themselves, they endanger the ones they care about. Would you want to live with the guilt of being responsible for the death of a friend? He asked as Naruto gasped slightly, and remembered back to the land of Wave, when Sasuke put himself in harm's way to protect him. He hadn't given it much thought back then, but if had taken the time to plan and attack Haku from outside the dome, then Sasuke wouldn't have been injured in the first place. They could have attacked both outside and inside the dome, but he rushed in like an idiot. The memory of holding Sasuke's cold body in his arms, plus the early trap with the genjutsu making him think he hurt Sakura, made him realize he was an idiot. He boasted and claimed he would become Hokage, to make the villagers acknowledge him. But what was the point if he ended up hurting the ones he cared about along the way? Sure, Sasuke was arrogant and thought himself better than Naruto, and Sakura always agreed with whatever Sasuke said, but deep down he cared about them. He didn't want to see them get hurt, especially by his hand. Kami, I'm such an idiot, he said as Jiraiya walked over to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. No, you're not, you're just impulsive, he said as Naruto looked up at the man that smiled softly. The fact you're admitting to your fault is already a big step in the right direction. Now you just need to focus on taking steps to temper yourself. Learn to calm yourself and think before you act, and I know you will become a splendid shinobi, just like your father. Maybe even greater, he smiled as Naruto stared up at the man before he nodded. Right, thank you Jiraiya-sensei, he said as Jiraiya chuckled. Finally, a little respect, he said as Naruto looked up and smirked a little. Don't get too used to it, you're still a pervert, he said as Jiraiya laughed. Ahahaha. Of course I am. Now let's get back to practice. Genjutsu will be another task we need to assign your clones. But for now, it's summoning time, he said as Naruto nodded and dispelled the clones practicing chakra control. He then bit his thumb, flashed through the hand signs and slammed his hand on the ground. Summoning jutsu, he yelled as a puff of smoke appeared and a small orange toad with purple markings around his eyes, mouth and stomach wore a small blue jacket. Yo! Name's Gamakichi. What's happening? The small toad said as Naruto stared at the small toad before he started smiling. Yes. I did it. I finally summoned a toad. He laughed with glee, as he did a little dance around the training field. Jiraiya and Gamakichi just stared at the boy, before the small looked back at the sage and pointed his thumb at Naruto. Is he right in the head? He asked as Jiraiya chuckled. That remains to be seen. It had been almost 2 weeks since Naruto started his training, and only 2.5 weeks until the finals. During that time, Naruto steadily and quickly improved since then. Thanks to the shadow clones, he had begun to refine his chakra control by having multiple shadow clones practice basic chakra control techniques. His control was far better now that he could use the regular clone jutsu without it coming out like a deflated version of himself. His taijutsu form was still at its basic, But now Naruto didn't look like a thug swinging his fists around all the time. Jiraiya had taught Naruto the basics of a few taijutsu styles he had learned in his younger years that would serve as a solid foundation. It was a taijutsu style he had developed with the aid of Sarutobi sensei before he went to Mount Maiboku. Regardless, the sage knew it would be a long time before he learned the frog kata. Then there was also his mentality. After the harsh lesson involving the genjutsu, Naruto had taken a serious inventory of himself. He had realized that by always rushing ahead he was potentially putting himself and others in danger. Especially those that he considered his friends and comrades in arms. It had scared him to think that his actions could impact those around him, and he wanted to make sure that something like that would never happen. For him to improve mentally, Jiraiya began to teach the boy some meditation techniques. A little exercise designed to temper his impulsive behavior. He also continued to read over the tactics and strategy guides for increased strategic knowledge. This was not to say it got rid of all his mannerisms, and he still had some of his impulses, such as his tendency to call people by nicknames, such as pervy sage, busy brows, and so forth. But now he was starting to use his head more than his gut. Jiraiya had also taken the time to teach Naruto how to dispel genjutsu. It was still by far his weakest of ninjutsu, but at least now he could dispel low-level genjutsu, possibly mid-level given another week of clone training. But hopefully, his opponents didn't use genjutsu. As for his summoning, he could now summon a proper toad. Well, a small orange toad named Gamakichi and his younger brother, a small yellow toad called Gamatatsu. But it was better over the tadpoles he had been summoning a week earlier. The Nine Tails, however, was the hardest part of his training. After the genjutsu incident, Jiraiya learned that intense anger and emotions are what helped to bring out the power of the Nine Tails. But given that Naruto would be in a state where his emotions would get the best of him, he decided to find another means of drawing out the Nine Tails' power. Several Naruto clones continued balancing on logs, as they focused on maintaining their chakra control while keeping the log upright in the water. Another group kept reading sealing jutsu fundamentals, while others read up on history and tactics. Sealing jutsu was a lot harder than he initially thought, but he was determined to eventually learn the art of his ancestors. The real Naruto was once again practicing his taijutsu, fighting off his clones as he instructed all his clones to come up with group tactics and ploys to throw him off guard. His taijutsu skill had improved, thanks to fighting himself and Jiraiya, but it would still be a long time before could master a specific taijutsu form or hope to beat Neji in a straight-up taijutsu fight. That was why they were practicing strategies to overwhelm Neji. Naruto stood in the center of the field, wearing only his orange pants, black shirt and sandals as he gestured to his clones. They nodded to each other, as prepared to attack. 2 clones threw kunai at the original, and Naruto dodged or deflected the attacks. Another 2 got in real close and parried their blades with his, as sparks shot off from contact. He jumped back as he pulled 2 shuriken from his pouch and threw them at the clones. The clones exploded into smoke, right as 2 others threw kunai tied with ninja wire as they wrapped around his wrists. The clones held him in place, as 2 others rushed in and slid and kicked his feet up. Naruto fell to the ground as 3 more attempted to stomp on his stomach. But Naruto focused chakra into his arms as he momentarily increased his strength and pulled the clones holding him down, freeing himself from their grasp and rolling out of the way of the 3 kicks. Naruto breathed out tired breaths as he smirked. Alright, that wasn't bad. But we need to increase the number of clones holding down the wire, otherwise, Neji could just break free like I just did, he said as the clones nodded. What if we throw in paper bombs? That might work, yeah, but it's still only an exam. We don't want to kill the guy. Well, we need to make him pay for Hinata. He had no right to put her down like that, but we can't let our emotions get the best of us again, otherwise we'd end up getting hurt. Or worse, end up hurting someone we care about. The clones discussed with the original as they all shivered at the memory. Still hate that pervy sage made us see that, he said as he felt his hand begin to shake at the memory. But still I guess we needed to see it. Knock some sense into our thick heads, huh? He asked himself. Couldn't agree more, kid, he heard as he turned to see Jiraiya walking over to him. Ah, there you are, pervy sage, Naruto said as he dispelled the clones and felt the information rushing back to him. What kept you? He asked as Jiraiya sighed. Stop calling me that. Anyway, I was running a little late because I had to pick up some things, he said as he grinned. It's time for the next phase of your training, chakra transformation, he said as Naruto grinned. Alright. Now we're getting to the good stuff. He felt excited. So how does this work? He asked as Jiraiya pulled out pieces of paper. Paper? He asked as the sage nodded. Yep, but not just any ordinary paper. This is chakra paper, special paper made from trees that feed on chakra. They will react to one of the 5 chakra natures. For example, he held the paper as he channeled chakra into it. The paper instantly caught on fire and crumbled to ash. Whoa! He exclaimed as Jiraiya smirked. When chakra is applied, the paper will react to your chakra's nature. What you just saw was my main chakra nature, which is fire. It goes like this: lightning chakra crumbles the paper, wind splits it in half, water makes it wet and earth turns it into dirt, he explained, Naruto picking this up thanks to the clones reading over the lessons. What we're going to do now is determine your chakra nature, then we can focus on honing it, he said as Naruto nodded. So, does this mean fire style is all you're good at? He asked as Jiraiya shook his head. No, you can use other jutsus, but it's preferred to master your initial nature transformation to increase its power. Plus, when you get older and train more, you can effectively use more than one chakra nature. He held up another piece of paper and channeled earth nature chakra as the paper crumbled to dirt. I believed I explained this a while back, but one isn't limited to just one chakra nature. A Jonin can use up to 2 or 3 types of chakra natures, which can be acquired with enough training. But it's more preferred to master your initial element. He explained as Naruto nodded. What about ice? I fought against someone who could use ice a while back in the Land of Waves. What element does that fall under? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. Well, that is by a combination of 2 elements, wind and water. However, it's near impossible for ordinary shinobi to combine 2 chakra natures into a new one. Those that can use both at the same time possess a Kekkai Genkai, a bloodline limit. The first Hokage himself was famed for his wood-style jutsu, where he could combine earth and water to create wood. Although no one else aside from him has ever been able to replicate wood style naturally, he explained as Naruto nodded. Whoa hey, so how come no one else has been able to use wood style? He asked as Jiraiya shrugged. No one knows. It was believed the first Hokage possessed a powerful life force that only his earth and water style could naturally create wood. Others have tried in the past, but the results have been fruitless, and the wood style was classified as a Kekkai Genkai, he said as Naruto nodded. Not to mention all those sick experiments Orochimaru conducted on those children just to try and replicate the first Hokage's power, he thought to himself as he recalled the investigation into his once former friend. Alright, enough history lessons, time to see what you have, kid, he said as Naruto grinned and snatched the papers. Alright, time to see what I can do. Hold it, you only need to use one dash. He trailed off as he watched the papers in Naruto's hands. One paper split evenly down the middle, indicating that he possessed wind chakra. But the other 2 were different. One became soaking wet while the other crumbled into nothing but dirt as the pair stared at the papers. Huh! Why did 3 of them react differently? Naruto asked as Jiraiya narrowed his gaze. Could it be, he said as he took one of the spare papers. Try it again, Naruto, he said as Naruto took the paper and applied his chakra. This one split down the middle like the first. Okay, now hold another, he said as Naruto took a second one, while it became soaking wet. I see it's possible, but he said as Naruto raised a brow. But what pervy sage? Well, it's possible that due to your vast amounts of chakra, the paper could only identify your most dominant chakra nature. So when you grabbed the others, they reacted to your other chakra natures. So instead of having just one chakra nature, you have 3, he said. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt a sense of pride. But the memory of the genjutsu flashed across his mind, as the terrified Sakura gazed into his soul, and he pushed down his impulse to boast. So this means I have to master 3 different elements now, right? He asked as Jiraiya blinked at the boy's lack of boasting. I half expected him to boast about that. Must have been because of the genjutsu, he surmised as he nodded. Glad that event more than knocked his godson down a peg, though the old sage wished he didn't need to be so rough. However, it would be far worse if that happened when Naruto was out on a mission where he could freeze up and get himself killed. Better in a controlled environment rather than out on a mission where an enemy would have no such mercy. Exactly, it won't be easy, even with the clone trick. But nothing ever is. So the trick now will be to have you learn to mold your chakra into that specific element. After that, we can get started on learning some elemental jutsu, and a few ninjutsu I've found that could be perfect for you, he said as Naruto nodded. Okay, so what do I do first? Well, make 300 clones. And then split them into groups of 3 groups of 100 each. One group will focus on wind, while the other 2 will focus on water and earth. For the wind element, he snatched a stray leaf from the air. You must take a leaf and cut it using your chakra, he instructed as he handed the leaf to Naruto. Seeing as wind is your primary, you will be focusing on that element first. Wind chakra is the best at close to mid-range attacks, so you must make your chakra sharp. As for you other clones, they must take this dirt. He scooped up some dirt and held it in his palm, and use your chakra to turn it into stone. Like this, Jiraiya clenched hands around the dirt as he focused his chakra on the dirt, the bits of dirt forming together until he opened his palm, and in its place was stone. Whoa! Naruto said as he looked over the stone. So, what about water? That one will be tricky, he said as he handed him another leaf. You need to use your chakra to draw the water out of the leaf until it dries up, like the ones you see in autumn. My advice would be to hold it by the stem, so you don't confuse your sweat with the water. You'll know when you succeed when you can draw out a drop of water the same size as the leaf, he said as Naruto nodded. And this is all the first stage of training, right? Learning how to change my chakra into that element? He asked as Jiraiya nodded. What about lightning and fire? Well, similar to cutting the leaf, but you have to make the center burn. Like this, he grabbed a leaf in midair and held it between his 2 fingers. In no time at all, the leaf began to smoke before it burned. But seeing as you don't have fire nature, we'll come back to it at a later date. As for lightning, you have to generate a spark between 2 pieces of metal. Learning to charge your chakra into a spark of electricity, he said as Naruto nodded. So, in a sense, anyone can use all the elements, right? It just takes time and practice, he asked as Jiraiya nodded. Correct. You may not know this, but the old man, the third Hokage, can use all of the chakra natures. But it took him decades to master them all, and you've got a method that accelerates the process. I say given a year or two, you might be able to master all 5 as well. See, reading all those books has been good for you, he joked as Naruto nodded. Yeah, some of it still flies over my head, but I'm picking up a lot more than I ever did before, Naruto admitted. Well, a good education will do that. Now let's get started. Group Wind and Water, go grab as many leaves off that tree as you can. Group Earth will pick up the dirt and turn it into stone, and finally, he instructed as all the clones and Naruto nodded as they got to work. The Wind group held their palms together as they focused on cutting the leaf with their chakra, a lot of grunting and groaning as they tried to make their chakra sharp. While the other group was trying to compress their chakra into the dirt to make it hard as stone. The Water group was having the most difficulty, as they struggled to draw the water out of the leaves. Jiraiya sat under the tree as he wrote in his notebook. Occasionally he kept an eye on Naruto, in case he accidentally tapped into the Nine-Tails chakra. While it was his goal to eventually teach Naruto how to tap into the tailed beast's power, after seeing how anger could trigger a reaction, he decided to stock up on suppressing seals Minato had created a while back. The kid is determined, I'll give him that. Anyone else would have given up by now. He certainly inherited the better traits from those two. He stopped writing as he looked up to the sky. Minato Kushina, I had a lot of regrets in my life chasing after Tsunade for all those years just to be rejected, not stopping my friend Orochimaru from going down a path against the village, and not being there for your son. That one is probably my biggest one yet. He closed his eyes as he imagined he was speaking to them now. I can't take back the time I lost on him, but I am determined to be here for him now. To make up for my mistakes and help guide him to be the Hokage he dreams to be. I just hope you can forgive me one day, he thought, unaware of the ghostly figures that stood behind him. A hand on each shoulder as they watched their son proudly. Oh, and Kushina? If I somehow die and see you up there, please don't kick my ass. I swear I didn't teach him that perverted jutsu. He mentally gulped as he imagined Kushina's image slightly shifted to her angry form while Minato backed off in fear. He opened his eyes again as he heard one of Naruto's cheers as a small cut was made on one of the leaves. How about that? Meanwhile, Konoha Cliff Training Ground. Kakashi Hatake, former apprentice to the 4th Hokage, former Umbu captain and current captain of Team 7, gripped the side of the cliff as he attempted to climb up with only one hand behind his back. If Guy was here, he knew his unofficial rival would try to climb the cliff with both arms tied behind his back. For this climbing exercise to be so difficult, damn, I've gotten out of shape, Kakashi lamented as he continued to climb up the cliff. I just hope I can make it in time, he said to himself as he recalled the meeting he had with the Hokage and the other Jonin. 2 weeks ago, joint meeting. The news still struck them hard as the Hokage finished informing them of the tragic news. Hate Gecko was slain. Most of them had known Hate since their days at the academy. Some of them even served on the same genin team when they were young. One especially had a deep and intimate relationship with the man as she hid amongst the rafters. While Hate was Kakashi began as the 3rd Hokage nodded. His body was discovered this morning by Kikyo Castle. It would appear that he was killed using a powerful wind-style jutsu, Sarutobi informed as Anko glared. Was it Orochimaru? She asked as she still harbored deep anger at her former sensei. We can assume it was Orochimaru that struck the blow. Hate was more than likely tracking the same spy that tried to grab Sasuke at the hospital, Kabuto Yakushi. But even though it wasn't Orochimaru, it's clear he is up to something, Kakashi surmised as the other Jonin nodded. Then we must cancel the Chunin exams if Orochimaru is plotting something for the village, Rado recommended until the Hokage shook his head, much to their confusion. No, Orochimaru revealed himself to Anko and urged us not to cancel the exams. Currently, the exams have brought shinobi from across all our shinobi allies, he said as one of his advisors, Hamura Mitokado, turned to him. What do you think it means, Saru? He asked his old friend. Given what we know about Orochimaru, he bears a strong hatred for the Leaf Village, and he has enough strength to crush a village on his own. Since he left the village years ago, any number of countries would want him as an ally rather than an enemy, he said as Rado shook his head. Impossible. No village in the alliance would betray another, or even ally themselves with that traitor. Rado exclaimed as the 3rd Hokage narrowed his eyes. The thing is, the treaty we have with the other villages is only as binding as any verbal agreement. As we've seen multiple times with great ninja wars. Kakashi explained as Rado lowered his head. In any case, we have few little details to go off. There's no point worrying needlessly. It's all just idle speculation, Sarutobi explained as the Jonin nodded. We've dispatched Umbu Black Ops members to the other countries to gather as much intel as we can gather. We would be fools to act too hastily, and it might be what our enemy is waiting for, the 3rd Hokage's second advisor, Koharu Yuditane, advised alongside her companions. Besides, no matter what happens, I have complete faith in all of you. If the time comes when our enemy shows their fangs, we will assemble our strength and fight back. For we are shinobi of the Hidden Leaf, and we will not let our enemy take us down, Sarutobi declared as all the Jonin nodded in approval, feeling the will of fire burning within them. Present-day Konoha cliff training. Kakashi felt invigorated at the memory of the third Hokage's words as he continued to climb the cliff. His grip started to slip as he focused his chakra on his brain and opened his inner gate. He then flipped over the rock and landed on a higher ledge as he pulled himself up higher. But as he got higher, he noticed someone was standing over him. He looked up to see Sasuke Uchiha standing over him, hands in his pockets as he smirked. "Took you long enough," Sasuke said as Kakashi narrowed his gaze. "Heh, so you finally showed up," Kakashi said as he jumped over and untied himself. "I was beginning to think you'd be asleep for the entire time, then you'd miss out on some needed training," he said as Sasuke glared. "I already wasted enough time resting. I need to get stronger," he said as Kakashi nodded. I know. In case you are unaware, I'll catch you up. You will be facing Gaara of the Sand in the finals. Gaara is a tough opponent, with mastery of a versatile sand jutsu. He was able to critically injure Rock Lee during his fight, so much so that Rock Lee may never be a ninja again, he explained as Sasuke narrowed his eyes. "I see, did you learn anything useful?" he asked as Kakashi sighed. "Nice show of concern for your fellow Leaf Ninja," he commented. But yes, during his match Gaara was unable to initially keep up with Lee's intense speed. "Luckily for you, I managed to record Lee's fighting style with Gaara using my Sharingan, so I will be able to teach you the same fighting style. Though I digress, you will not be able to replicate his exact speed, seeing as Lee spent years training in weights to achieve that level of speed. But the problem will be Gaara's sand defense, which itself is impressive and almost impenetrable," Kakashi explained as Sasuke nodded. "So, I will need a jutsu that can bypass his defenses," he said as Kakashi nodded. "And for that, I will teach you one of my jutsus," Kakashi said as he held up his hand. "This was a technique I created back when I was only 15 years old, and is considered an A-rank jutsu that might be just the thing." He went through a series of hand signs before grasping his right wrist with his left hand and started gathering chakra in his hand. He then changed the chakra's nature and shape into powerful streams of electricity. The electricity sparked all around Kakashi's palm as Sasuke stared in awe. "This is the Chidori," he explained as Sasuke stared with his Sharingan ablaze as he marveled at the power of the technique. "And this will help me against Gaara?" he asked. Kakashi nodded. "And then will it help me get my revenge?" he asked with a dark glare as Kakashi stared at Sasuke with concern but nodded. "It will, but I must heavily stress, this technique I designed is meant to protect the ones you care about. You must never use it on your comrades. Do I make myself clear?" he asked as Sasuke merely glared before shoving his hands in his pockets. "Yes, I understand," he said as Kakashi still felt some concern, but nodded all the same. "Very well, now, for you to be able to use this jutsu, I will need to teach you how to change your chakra nature. You know what that is, right?" Kakashi asked as Sasuke scoffed. "Of course I know. I'm not an idiot like Naruto," Sasuke said with a smirk, while the real Naruto sneezed at the waterfall. "Good, then this will make it easier. To use the Chidori, you must be able to change your chakra into lightning. To do this, you will need these," Kakashi said as he held up two small metal wires. "The goal will be to change your chakra into lightning, by having it jump from one wire to the other. Once you can do that, the Chidori will be easier to understand," he instructed as Sasuke nodded and turned around so he could begin to get to work. "By the way, aren't you going to ask about Naruto? He made it into the finals as well," Kakashi said as Sasuke remained silent. "It doesn't matter whether or not he wins or loses, doesn't concern me, all I care about is getting stronger," he merely said as he focused on turning his chakra into lightning. Yara, same old Sasuke." He then looked off into the distance as he thought about his other pupil. "I wonder how Odasu is training Naruto. By now he must have improved his chakra control a little." 2 days later, Naruto grunted and groaned as he focused on turning his chakra into a sharp wind, as he held the leaf in his palms. Sweat dripped down his face as he focused on trying to get the technique down. Come on, Naruto said as he opened his palm and saw the leaf had a cut going a quarter of the way down. "Damn, still not enough," he said as he continued to focus. Haha. Check it out. He heard one of his clones shout as he held up a leaf that had a slightly deeper cut than his own. "Damn it! I'm nowhere near that." Naruto groaned as the clone smirked. "Well, I'm just more talented than you. We're all the same, idiot. Check this out." They all heard as another clone held up his leaf that had a deeper cut and smirked. "TCH. Show off. That version of me is doing better than I am. Hey, Earth guys. How are you going?" Naruto yelled to his Earth group as they continued to try and turn dirt into stone. "What do you think? This isn't as easy as it looks," one of the clones shouted back. "You guys have got it lucky. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get water out of a leaf?" one of the water group clones shouted. "I haven't managed to get even a drop. I got like a pinprick size," another shouted as the water group clones glared at him. "Well, who asked you?" another water clone shouted. Naruto meanwhile looked at the bickering clones as he stared with disbelief. "I think I've used the shadow clones for too long now," he said as Jiraiya nodded as he walked over to him. "Yet best you have them dispel now and gather up those experience points," Jiraiya suggested and nodded. "Good idea. Hey guys. We're going to take a break. Disperse in the following order. Wind group goes first, then after a minute, Earth group is next, then water." "Okay," he shouted to the clones as they nodded. "Okay." They all shouted as the wind group dispersed, and Naruto felt the rush of information to his head. Followed shortly after by the Earth group and the Water group. He stumbled slightly from the headache that was coming on. Oh man! I hate it when it does that, he complained as he rubbed his head. So much info, I feel like my head is going to burst, he said as Jiraiya chuckled and handed him an aspirin and water container. Well, there are always side effects to using any jutsu for too long. For you, it's having your head crammed with extra knowledge, Jiraiya said as Naruto nodded. Yeah, but for me, it's like a whole bunch of books smack me in the head at once, still better than Sakura's punches, he commented as Jiraiya raised a brow and then chuckled. What? Naruto asked as Jiraiya shook his head. Nothing, it's just you kind of remind me of myself back in the day, Jiraiya commented as Naruto stared before a shocked expression crossed his face. Oh crap. Does that mean I will turn into you one day? No. I'm being sentimental. Boy, you know how to kill a mood, Jiraiya yelled as he sighed. Anyway, how's the training? It looks like you're making progress with wind chakra, he said as Naruto groaned. Yeah, but it's still pretty hard. My chakra control is better now, but it's still hard to make my chakra turn into wind and cut the leaf. Not to mention the other Mi's are having problems with turning dirt into stone, and the water ones don't get me started. Well, you're just lucky we're focusing on the first level of change in chakra nature, Jiraiya said as Naruto raised a brow. The first level? What's the second level then? He asked as Jiraiya smirked. Well, for wind, he then pointed at the waterfall. It involves you cutting a waterfall with your chakra, he said as Naruto stared in awe. What? That sounds impossible. You've seen people summon giant snakes, shoot fireballs from their mouths, and you have a nine-tailed spirit fox sealed inside you. And you think that's impossible? He asked as Naruto closed his mouth. Good point, he said as he looked at the waterfall. So then what about earth and water? He asked as Jiraiya smirked. Well, earth requires you to do the same thing with dirt practice, except you have to make a large boulder out of smaller rocks, he said as Naruto gulped. And as for water, you need to use your chakra to make an orb of water the same size as your head, Jiraiya explained as Naruto nodded. Okay, so it's taking what I've learned in the first stage and then amplifying it. For me to use jutsu of a higher caliber, correct? Naruto asked as Jiraiya nodded. See, you got it. All those book readings have finally paid off, Jiraiya said as he slapped a hand on the boy's shoulder. Not really, I'm still having trouble with cutting the leaf. Do you have any advice to give, or know anyone that could? Naruto asked as Jiraiya pondered this. The wind is not my strongest element. I can help with earth and water, but I think I know someone that has extensive knowledge of wind chakra. He's the son of the old man and happens to be the sensei of one of your friends. Asuma Sarutobi, he said as Naruto blinked. Asuma sensei, you mean Shikamaru's team? Wait, he's the son of the third Hokage, he exclaimed, as Jiraiya nodded. Then that would make Asuma Konohamaru's father. Close, but not the case. Asuma is his uncle. Sarutobi has another son, but he works in the Umbu if I recall, he said as Naruto nodded. I see. He looked over to the Hokage monument in the distance as he looked at the heads of third and fourth Hokage. Had I just realized Konohamaru, Asuma and I were kind of alike. We're related to the Hokage and we have a lot of expectations to live up to now, he said as Jiraiya nodded. Only difference is no one knows you're the son of the fourth, and thus lived a completely different life than Konohamaru or Asuma for that matter. But I think it's made you stronger, and gave you the same kind of perspective both your parents had. They worked hard to get where they were and learned to value those around them. That's what made them splendid shinobi, and what will make you one of the greatest, he said as Naruto looked up at the old man and smiled. That was really touching, he said before his eyes narrowed into a glare. If it wasn't for the fact you're peeping right now, he shouted as he pointed to the man's shadow clone peeking at the girls in the river downstream. Hey, what can I say? I am a master author, and I need plenty of material for my next work. Gah! Why is every teacher I get a pervert? Naruto yelled into the sky. Meanwhile, Team 10 training ground. Shikamaru grunted in annoyance as Choji came barreling at him with his human boulder jutsu. The clan heir of the Nara clan hoped to use his shadow binding jutsu to hold his friend in place, but once he realized he didn't have enough chakra, he jumped out of the way. Just as Choji crashed into a tree. What's the matter, Shikamaru? Ran out of gas already? Asuma asked as Shikamaru groaned. Ah, what a drag, he said as Asuma laughed. Okay, Choji, let's do it again, Asuma instructed as Choji nodded. Right, Choji said as he prepared to use his expansion jutsu. Asuma-sensei! They suddenly heard as they all turned to see Naruto running towards them. Asuma-sensei! He yelled. Huh, Naruto? Choji said as Shikamaru sighed in relief. Never thought I'd be so glad to see that idiot, he said as he stood up. What's up, Naruto? Shouldn't you be training for the finals? Shikamaru asked as Naruto grinned. Of course I am. I've been training super hard. I just need to ask Asuma-sensei something, Naruto said as Asuma raised a brow. What do you need me for, Naruto? You do realize I'm Shikamaru's teacher, right? And I shouldn't be giving his potential opponent any advantage, he said as Naruto nodded. I know, but I need some advice. And I heard you're the best one to go to, Naruto said as Asuma stared at the boy. See, I found out I have wind chakra, and I heard you're probably the best one to ask about it, he said as Asuma raised a brow. You're learning nature transformation? You need some real talent to master that, Shikamaru said as Naruto nodded. Yep, that's why I need tips from Asuma sensei. Soon I'm going to be able to do some awesome wind ninjutsu, he said as Asuma stroked his beard. I didn't think you were ready for that kind of training. Boy, Kakashi must be putting you and Sasuke through the meat grinder, huh? Asuma asked as Naruto glared subtly. Not really, he's been too busy training Sasuke at the moment. So, I've been getting help from another teacher, he said as Asuma raised a brow. I guess this has to do with Orochimaru and the curse mark. But why is Naruto suddenly learning nature chakra? Last I recall he was the dead last at the academy, and his chakra control was terrible during the preliminary. Did something change in just 2 weeks? Asuma thought to himself. Oh well, I guess if he wants some pointers I can give him some. It's not like he'll make it past Niji. Asuma thought to himself as he nodded. Alright, I'll give you some pointers, he said as Naruto smiled with excitement. Only if you agree to pay for Shikamaru's victory dinner after the Chunin exams, he said as Naruto blanched at this, slowly turning to Choji. Having long known about the Akamichi's appetite, he'd be broke in a snap. Okay, how about this? Shikamaru wins, and I pay for the tab. I win, you pay for mine. Deal? He asked as Asuma raised a brow and stroked his beard. Okay, he said as he shook the boy's hand. Not like you to make a risky wager, sensei, Shikamaru said with his hands in his pockets, as Asuma shrugged. Just this once. Okay, so I guess a simple way to show you would be to give you an example, Asuma said as he reached into his pouch and pulled out 2 knives. They weren't ordinary knives, they had 4 finger holes, and spiked knuckle guards, and they were held with the blades pointing down from the fist. These are my chakra blades. They're made from a special metal that draws out the nature chakra from the user, he explained as his chakra flowed into the blade. It coated the blade in a sharp blue haze that looked almost like razors. Whoa! Naruto said as he stared at the blade. Here, try to do the same, Asuma instructed as Naruto took one of the blades and channeled his chakra into the blade. His control seems to have improved a bit, Asuma thought as he noticed Naruto wasn't struggling as much as he thought. However, the chakra around Naruto's blade looked wobbly than Asuma's. It doesn't look anything like yours, Asuma-sensei? Naruto said as Asuma nodded. Well, you've only just started, so it's no surprise. Now listen up, when manipulating wind chakra you have to imagine splitting your chakra in half and rubbing the two together. Then you've got to sharpen those parts into fine pieces and compress them together, Asuma explained as Naruto nodded. Like sharpening a kunai? Naruto said as Shikamaru and Asuma blinked. He got that? They both thought at the same time before Asuma nodded. Right, anyway, the thinner and sharper they are, the better, Asuma said as Naruto nodded but then looked at the chakra blade. Hey, I'm a bit curious about how good this wind chakra is. I mean, we've already got kunai knives, so what's the point then? He asked as Asuma smirked. How about I show you? See that tree over there? Take my knife and throw it, and I'll do the same, Asuma instructed as Naruto nodded and took aim. He and Asuma threw their knives at the same time. But when Naruto's blade stopped at the tree, Asuma went right through the tree and hit the stone behind it. Whoa! It didn't just cut through the tree, it went right through it and hit the boulder. He exclaimed with stars in his eyes, while Asuma smirked. Actually, if I wanted to I could make it go right through the rock as well, but that's dangerous, so I limited my chakra, Asuma explained as Naruto flinched. Wo, he said as Asuma raised his finger. See, that is the key difference. If 2 shinobi of the same level were to go at each other, the one with the sharper tool would win. Wind chakra has the best abilities for mid to close range fighters. It's a pretty nifty ability, this wind chakra, huh? He asked as Naruto nodded. And hey, after the exams, if you ever need any more tips feel free to drop by, just be ready to pay for our meals, he said as Naruto grinned. No problem. Now I just have to figure out earth and water. Thanks, Asuma-sensei, he said as Asuma raised a brow. Earth and water? But before he could get an answer, Naruto crossed his fingers and dispelled himself. Huh! That was a shadow clone? Shikamaru said as he raised a brow. That was pretty mean of you, making him pay for our meal. Never took you for the gambler type, he said as Asuma mentally was processing what Naruto meant by earth and water, but shook it off. It will be fine. He may have improved a bit, but I doubt he'll be able to beat Guy's student, Asuma said with a shrug. I don't know, Naruto is the one guy I can never really figure out. Not to mention he seemed different than 2 weeks ago. He may have a chance against Niji, Shikamaru said as Asuma raised a brow. You think so? Guess we'll just have to wait and see, Asuma said as he lit up a cigarette. Guess so. By the way, Naruto has the same appetite for ramen as Choji does, he said as Asuma stiffened at the thought. Better hope Naruto doesn't win, otherwise you're out of real, he said as Asuma sighed. Damn it, and I have terrible luck. Back at the waterfall, Naruto and the rest of his clones got a rush of information as they processed Asuma's lesson. I see. So that's how it works. Naruto grinned as he refocused on his training. Jiraiya watched with a smirk as saw Naruto's determination. Kid's got a knack for pushing on, I can say that much, he said to himself as he watched his student before him, and recalled all his past students standing beside him. Nagato, Yahiko, Konan, Minato, so many of my students, so many of them passed before me, he lamented as he looked upon Naruto. I wonder though if he is the one I've been searching for, the child of prophecy that will bring a great revolution to this world, or will I have failed again, he asked himself. Yada! He suddenly heard as Naruto held up a fully cut leaf. I did it! He and the other clones screamed as they threw their leaves in the air. Maybe not, I've got a good feeling about this kid, Jiraiya smirked as he watched Naruto celebrate his victory over the leaf. Now I just need to get the earth and water down. Hey! How's it coming? What do you think? Shut up and help us already. Hey! Don't talk to me like that. You're not the boss of me. Yes, I am. I made you, Jiraiya sighed as he shook his head. Well, at least it will be interesting, to say the least, he said as he got up and started to walk over to his newest protege. In the notebook left by the rock, as multiple titles were written and scratched out. And amongst one of them was simply, The Tale of Naruto Uzumaki.